What is up, my friends? Welcome to another edition of Bronze to Mythic, but not any edition. All right, this is going to be a very special episode. So, of course, usually we do one draft per episode. This is a little bit different. So, if you've been watching my Bronze to Mythic series, you know that Ikoria was pretty great. I breezed through Kaldheim. We smashed Kaldheim. And Strixhaven has been perplexing me a little bit. It's been a little bit tough, kind of a really weird format, a lot of strange stuff going on. And we've done 13 drafts so far. We're still laying low platinum. And we're struggling a little bit, I'm not going to lie. And what do you do when you're struggling? You call in some help. You call in some backup. So this episode is going to be a coaching episode. I hired Sam Black, of course, phenomenal Magic player. Sam makes his own content, does podcasts, and Sam's great. Hired Sam to coach me. So this episode is going to be Sam and me going through my most recent 5 drafts. So episodes 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, which you've all hopefully seen on the YouTube. If not, you can go watch them. And we're going to go over, and Sam's going to go through things I'm doing wrong. And we're going to be looking at both the specific drafts we're watching, like pick by pick, as well as the kind of macro, larger image of like, what am I doing wrong? Whatever trends and the mistakes that I'm making that I can go through and kind of like correct, which is pretty good. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great episode. And then our next episode, episode 15, will be our 14th draft with Sam riding shotgun. So we'll have Sam with me going through every pick in the draft and kind of trying to use the things we've learned. And that should be very helpful as well. So check it out. It's a lot of fun. Of course, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you like this content, this sort of collaboration. And let's go. All right, so as we were saying, so I guess brief intro. Sam, obviously, you're pretty well known at this point. It's funny. I was thinking about this. You're sort of a friend of the stream vicariously in that you the first major finish you had was with the Goblin deck in the Win a Car tournament, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that I remember I was at that Worlds, and like I remember your deck being like the talk, Mud Button Torch Runners winning some car tournament. What's going on, kind of thing. So that's pretty sweet. So yeah, cool. I mean, you obviously offer coaching. We can go over that later, I guess, as far as the full information on that and stuff. Let's jump right in, I guess. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Anything you want to get into before we start looking at the actual draft?
No, I think it's best to just handle everything on the fly.
All right, cool. Let's jump in. So this was draft number 9. People who are following along with the series. I think I'm currently on draft 13. So this is episode 9. I believe we're like in the bottom of platinum at the start of this run. And we're going to fire off the video. We're going to run the video at 1.5x speed, stopping when necessary. Let me find the speed button here. Where's the speed button? There it is. And let's go. Really, really good. Only other cards that are like super good here are Rise. There we go. All right, cool. Okay. So
yeah, so here, this pack to me is between Cody and Rise of Exodus. If you have a strong preference for like Silver Claw aggro or something, you can take Summoning or Fumes. I think Cody's totally reasonable. Happy to start with Cody. I think you'd have to have a strong preference against Cody now to take it. And so
when you're seeing Rise, I've been kind of hearing that like Rise is not good in Silver Quill in particular. It's more of like a bigger deck, a bigger card for other colors, right?
Yeah, it's medium in like Silver Quill aggro. I draft a lot of like multicolor or white control or like blue black or whatever, and it's also good in Witherbloom. Yeah, it's worse in its exact colors, but it's a really flexible card.
Yeah, so far, like as a short like rundown of what I've experienced so far, like whenever I draft Silver Quill or anything aggressive, I can't win a match. And then when I play basically the teamer colors, whether it's Quandrix Splash Red or vice versa, I tend to be my best decks. Decks that are going really, really big, fractal tokens and so on and so forth, removal. So we take Cody.
Yeah, so here, for me, the analysis is between Intro Prof and Combat Professor, where you're looking at like Pledge Mage and Intro Prof, I think. So the reason, for me, it's just, if I'm Cody, I want to take Intro Prof because it's a colorless card that gives me a lot of flexibility. And the primary thing that I want to do with Cody is kind of bounce between lessons and learn cards, where like I cast a learn card, get a lesson, Cody the lesson, it hits another learn card, rinse and repeat. Okay. Intro Prophecy is going to help me with like prioritizing learn cards really highly and not running out of lessons, while taking advantage of the fact that Cody's colorless and I can play it in any deck. You kind of like narrow in on Cody immediately as a like teamer card, and I couldn't disagree more with that assessment. To me, I think that like the colors all want to be proactive, not necessarily aggressive, but very like assertive, um, because they have weaker or more like situational or more like board presence based removal than white and black do. And so if you're putting yourself on this kind of like assertive proactive, even if it's big, it's assertive where you have like Leyline Invocation and Elemental Masterpiece and like large finishers. Like those cards to me don't play especially well with Cody, because if what you're doing with Cody is you're bouncing between like big token making cards and card draw or whatever, you're giving yourself this like really powerful like end game, where you just like never run out of threats. But that doesn't help you against the like evasive aggro decks that are trying to go under you. So I prefer to have Cody with a bunch of removal, where all my stuff is turning into annihilates, and now Cody is giving me time to do more codying. And so it's like pulling ahead in a way that my opponent can't get under, rather than just like trying to go over someone. And if they're just like attacking past me, I don't have anything to say about it. So
Okay,
like
that was my thought process. Was I have creature tokens. I can get around the Cody restriction by playing creature tokens. I wasn't really thinking about it like that. So that was definitely a default, like you're saying, where I was kind of like locking into just being okay, big spells. I'm also like, I guess I'm kind of viewing the bigger teamer decks like they're playing some removal and bigger things. I'm thinking them more as like late game decks, but not necessarily like they are like you're saying they are threat based because you are actually just putting things in play and they care about the board. So okay,
right.
that's reasonable. So
And so yeah, so like to me the best like Lash of Malice is incredible with Cody, because it means that you can like if you know that you want to kill something, you can just choose to Cody a 2-drop and it'll just always tutor for your Lash of Malice. And you can just like generally, keep the board empty. So like this comes up really strongly in this next pack where I'm like closing statement. That's a perfect Cody card because you can just curve Cody into closing statement, and like kill their thing to make sure that they're not beating your Cody, and like hit another spell off of it and chain that way. Whereas like you have access to a lot fewer cards like that,
What ho
and
Jim,
you
what
end
ho
up like
chat,
looking at
and what ho
Eureka Moment,
Sam.
and
How
that's
goes
just
the
like
CM?
value on top of value, where it's not giving a new dimension to my Cody deck the way that a removal spell is.
I think I was also afraid of like my Cody deck when I didn't draw Cody, because Cody feels like a very memey card. It's like a kind of a cute build around, but like the fear is when you don't draw the Cody, like is your deck gonna function? But I guess you're saying that like with a lot of removal, you're just a normal control deck, so you eventually draw the Cody.
When people watch me drafting, they're like, "Oh, you're drafting a Cody deck. Oh, you don't have Cody." That's just what I draft anyway.
Sure.
So
Okay.
like I'm very, very comfortable in the just like all removal and value decks regardless. So that's not something I'm scared of, but it's because that's just like the space that I like live in this format.
Okay, yeah, I've sort of like, I mean, I've been peeking in on your like Demir drafts and like the Demir splashy control decks, and like some of my later drafts ended up a little bit like that, which we'll go over later, obviously. But okay, cool. So
Right.
so here you're in on closing statement to go with Cody, right?
Yeah, and then so so the previous pick was the prophecy or pledge mate or combat professor, where combat professor is just like, yeah, this is a weak pack, I'm going to take the strongest card. Or I go with the flexible, try to push Cody to take the lesson.
Okay.
The Quandrix Pledge Mage, I also think that card's just like really bad unless you're exactly Quandrix. I think it's like kind of like it's one of those cards that sometimes runs away with a game and makes a really good impression on you, but it also just gets answered for 1 mana a lot, or like grows and then gets answered. And I have a really long rant about the problems with that card. It is good with exactly stuff like Snakeskin Veil and Decisive Denial, and in a very specific kind of proactive Quandrix deck where you're taking advantage of it being a good fighter and you're like having counter spells to protect it. But like general use, I'm not that into it. I'm in general very low on 3-mana 2/2s in this format.
Is your average Quandrix deck like more aggressive with Pledge Mage, or just more rampy with like Cultivator and like the Invocation
I
stuff?
believe in both of those Quandrix decks as decks that exist. I draft both of them very rarely.
Okay. All right, so let's see what I don't recall if it's straight up what I took. So
yeah, so I believe that you take Eureka Moment here. I'm not totally sure about that. I would just like, regardless of which cards I had taken in the first 2 picks, I would take Closing Statement here, I think.
Okay.
I just think it's really good. Eureka Moment's like, okay, but like it's good, again, good in Quandrix kind of fillery. Like if I didn't have Cody and I had Quandrix Pledge Mate, like I don't know how I'd end up with Quandrix Pledge
Sure.
Mage in the draft. But like if I had taken like Emergent Sequence, Quandrix Pledge Mage, and those were my first 2, then maybe I would take like Eureka Moment over Closing Statement, because at that point I'm like pretty solidly Quandrix. With the Cody, I'm looking to take advantage of it and go the other way. So now you're on Cultivator here which makes some sense if, especially because you have like, two Quandrix cards plus Cody, you could go away from Cody. Obviously, the other direction, I'm slamming Lash of Malice. Um, and what we end up seeing in this draft, I've watched a few picks ahead, is like you get better and better Silver Quill cards basically. That you just like never are open like mentally to moving into.
Mhm.
Which like puts you, just like you start with a colorless card, but don't view it as a colorless card, and it stops you from pivoting into the open lane. Um, I think, here it's fine to be like, well, I have two Quandrix cards. Uh, Cultivator's a strong Quandrix card, so I'll take it. Obviously, Aether Helix is like quite a bit better with Cody. But also a worse Quandrix card. So I think it's like pretty reasonable to go to either one of them if you're attached to Quandrix. I think I believe, struggle with which one of those to take, and I agree that if you're not taking Lash of Malice, it's one of those. And I think it's like kind of coin flippy as to which one.
You said Cultivator or Helix?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I haven't viewed Helix as like that. It's a card that hasn't even like popped out to me at all, honestly. Like, because I feel like
were you Cultivator and Masterpiece? I don't remember what you were debating between here.
I mean, I think this was like I was pretty happy with Cultivator. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Cultivator. Like, how high is it in your like?
I mean, it's really, really good in Quandrix. Okay. The reason to be thinking about Helix is just because of Cody and trying to like minimize your stuff that's competing with it, and like Helix to get back Cody is nice and stuff.
Okay, sure.
I do think like Helix I think Helix is strong. I think that anytime you actually have enough permanence that you're going to reliably get them in your graveyard, like it's so common that you can kill a fractal or elemental and buy back a good card that it's just strong. Okay. So here, slam compulsive research. Even if I had taken a bunch of Silver Quill cards, I would probably take compulsive research here. Unless I had taken the Combat Professor, then I might be on the Lash of Malice.
Sure.
But if I'd gone like Cody into Intro Prof into like if I'd been drafting the way that I wanted to be drafting, I'd be on compulsive research. And then to me, the pick would be between Killian and Reconstruct History. And you take the Leyline Invocation, which is fine, but gets into the exact thing that I'm talking about, where your Cody's just doing more threats rather than doing answers. But where you're solidly into this is what I'm trying to do. I think that like Curate is nice just to make sure that you don't run out of things to hit with Cody. And it also potentially powers up Serpentine Curves, which is like likely to be good in the direction you're going. But also, when you have like Eureka Moment and Quandrix Cultivator, you're in a pretty good spot for Leyline Invocation. So I think it's totally reasonable to take that over Curate here.
So you're considering Killian if you had gone down the Professor.
Yeah, path. I mean it's a pretty hard jump from where you are to Killian at this point, but it is like, oh, I just saw like Lash of Malice into Killian with like it's worth noting. Oh, there are like a lot of Silver Quill cards in this pack. There's like Divine Gambit. Like it's just it's that space is so open. And so it's worth like thinking about like, okay, like, am I supposed to be just like abandoning ship here? I don't think so. Like your cards are all powerful, debatable on the Pledge Mage, but other than that, and like the Leyline, I think the ship has sailed, but it's worth seeing, just paying attention to what's been happening here. But yeah,
okay, so
I mean, it's fine to take the indication from this spot.
At this point in the draft, so like in theory, just a more general question, like this is pick 6,
right?
We see a Killian. It seems we passed some lashes. It feels like Silver Quill's kind of open. Like, is jumping ship here from your 4 Quandrix picks like an okay thing to do in this format?
So, I mean, it is like if someone were like, I actually like Silver Quill. It's clear to me that I have the spot to like the chance to move into it here, and I think Leyline Invocations. Like what percent is your like win rate increasing in your deck if you add a Leyline Invocation to it versus not having that? Like, do I want to take a floater pick on Killian here, see if there's another great Silver Quill card, and then potentially abandon?
Let's go.
You're giving up a 53
lot. Big months.
Like 5 picks is pretty late. But I think also, if it's literally just like, 6 pick Killian, there's a really high chance I'm literally the only person in Silver Quill if I move in now. You run into some danger where, someone 3 seats down is like 5th pick Combat Professor. All right, I'm gonna take that. I think that like this would be like a reasonable spot to speculate on Killian because you're not giving up a lot on the Leyline Invocation. The problem is you have to figure out like, well, next pack, Do I want to like it? What Silver Quill card would I take over a Quandrix card next pack? Right? Like if I get past like Lash of Malice and Scurrid Colony, what am I gonna take?
Mhm.
Um, and like it's hard to like know the answer to that without seeing
Hi,
like the
Jim.
context of the rest of the
Hoping
pack
you
and
are
stuff,
having a
and like
GD day.
whether
Thanks for all the
knowing
content.
just enough about yourself to know which one of these things you would do if they're both in the pack is going to tell you how often you're actually going to take advantage of like the step toward the pivot there. Um, so I think that like it's definitely worth paying attention to like, okay, I'm like 3 cards deep in this archetype. There's a card that's, like 3% higher game and hand win rate in this other archetype that's open here or whatever, where like, like Killian's like 59, 60% Silver Quill, Leyline Invocation's probably like, I don't know, 56 or something in Quandrix. So like uh I'm giving up, high end replacement level with the Leyline Invocation to get way above replacement level with the Killian. But I need to like know that I'm collecting the payment on actually moving at like an appropriate, portion of the time justify the speculative pick there.
I mean, it's also you're also forfeiting the previous picks as well too. So it's
Well,
like,
you're only forfeiting the previous picks if you make the jump.
mhm.
You're forfeiting just the ley line to give yourself increased optionality
Sure, it's the
to
option.
continue
Yeah.
down this path if you wheel the other silver quill cards that you passed or whatever.
Okay.
And then you just need to figure out like, okay, how likely is it that I'm actually gonna like collect on this like, shot that I've given myself to move into the other direction.
Okay. And then history is like the all spell control deck kind of splashy card, right?
Yeah, reconstruct it like so. If I had been drafting my way and had all those silver cards that I was talking about, plus the compulsive research, so I'm at like Lash of Malice, Closing Statement, Cody, Prophecy, Compulsive Research. If
Mm-hmm.
those are my 5 cards, at that point, there's a really good chance that I would take Reconstruct over Killian because
Okay.
I'm not looking to be an aggressive Killian deck, and I have Cody, and Cody and Reconstruct history are super tight because obvious reasons.
Right.
Like the Reconstruct lets you get the Cody back. Um, and so like Killian's just not going to be particularly exceptional in that deck. Whereas, card advantage with my removal, like buying back all my removal spells and my Cody is exactly what I'm looking for in the control deck.
Okay. So I think I might be overvaluing Leyline Invocation as the card's been like felt pretty good for me, but okay.
So here, Negate, I think actually might have the highest win rate in this pack in Quandrix. Plays well with Quandrix Pledge Mage, plays poorly with Cody. Because, cascading into Negate's really bad. So Needle so you take it anyway. I would maybe take like the Drake or the Eureka moment because of the Cody situation, but again, Negate's good with your other cards, really good in the archetype, totally fine to take the Negate there.
Yeah, I like Negate a lot. I've had Negate in a lot of my decks. It's often been really, really good.
Yeah, so here from where you are, curate from, the hypothetical where I am, hunt for specimens.
Okay.
And then for me, this is Fumes. For you, this is, I don't even know, maybe
Yeah, it's
Fumes.
not-
Um, you could take like either of the blue creatures, I guess. If it's best of 3, you can take Tangle Trap.
Sure.
I would probably take Fumes in case I end up like hard shifting into Sultai because the other cards are so low payout. Like there's just nothing. And then charge through is fine to guarantee that you have a 1 for thing, and it's good with Pledge Mage. And now here, Vortex Runner, I guess. And worth noting there, we took like there were more black and white stuff like this whole way.
Right. Yeah. There was a what was in that last bag?
Right, like if you take it, if you just like exactly. There's like 2 good 2 drops. If you had taken the Combat Professor hedge and just like gone down that line, or just like full shifted on the Closing Statement, you could have certainly had a really good Silver Quill aggro deck from
For
this
sure.
seat, which is not where I would have ended up either. But
Okay, so yes, at this point in the draft, like I think things are going pretty well because I'm valuing a lot of these Quandrix cards very highly. So like,
Okay.
and they don't necessarily all go with the Cody, but I
but
feel
you're
like
not married
the
to
pack
that.
was okay
you,
for me.
You do just have this pack is just funny from the Silver Quill perspective.
Sure,
So
yeah.
here, for you, it's between Zoomancy and Fractal Summoning. Fractal Summoning is a lot better with the Cody. You don't have a lot of learn cards at the moment. I
Yeah,
think
I
I
don't
would
think I
take
have
the
any.
Spectral Summoning anyway, even though you don't have learn, just because I do want to end up in that space with the Cody. You could full shift into Sedgemoor Witch, I guess. Um, that's not unreasonable.
There's my dog.
Uh, you don't. Yeah, all right, I can see it, especially since you know black is open.
Yeah,
So
I
then,
think my thought process at this point was that like I might just be abandoning the Cody and just like being, either
yeah,
Quandrix splashing in some color, and like that's sort of where my head was at, I think.
yeah. Here, I think I'm taking the pest summoning, and I'm guessing you maybe take the Zimone. Yeah, I would actually value Needlethorn Drake over Zimone. I have not had good experiences overall with Zimone.
Okay.
Like it doesn't like it's one of those cards that kind of like Quandrix Pledge Mage where every removal spell is always good against it, and if they have a cheap removal spell, great, they just get to use it. If they have an expensive removal spell, you don't really get to punish them before they get to kill your thing.
Hmm.
And when your deck is like a bunch of like card draw and expensive threats, it's like pretty hard to end up finding time to actually use it. Whereas like the Needlethorn Drake just comes down, blocks, buys time for you to play your biggest stuff. Whereas like the Zimone, they'll attack through it with anything they have, and you'll never really want to block.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
that's a card that I feel like I've heard a lot of varying things about on both sides, like very strong opinions on both sides, and like I haven't really like it's been fine when I've had it. It obviously takes away, it rolls the game or whatever. Like later on, it can be crazy, but like
it's definitely one of those things where every now, like, one in 5 or 10 games or whatever, when you cast it and it does run away with the game. But I'd rather, like, especially if you're like happy with your deck, you're viewing it as pretty powerful. I think I'd rather just have like the consistency of like a Needlethorn Drake to keep me alive. Especially when you have like Cody is actually serving a similar role to Zimone here in your deck, right? Where it's just like giving you additional like card advantage and kind of like never running out of threats late situation.
okay.
So the thing that I was talking about where I want to be codying into removal spells, like Needlethorn Drake isn't a removal spell, doesn't play well with Cody, but does occupy a similar role where it stops people from just like running you over with aggro, with
Okay.
like flyers or whatever. So here I assume we're taking Mortality Spear, and we're really sad that we have to pass this Light Scribe. But the Mortality Spear makes sense with the Sedgemoor Witch pick. And Cody makes it easy to cast. And now, since you don't have any fixing, I think I would say I just have to take the Witherbloom campus. If I weren't taking that, I would just be on Scurrid Colony.
Colony's like very good, right?
Yeah, yeah, Colony is really good.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a wow, this is a strong pack with Tendrils, Curve, Campus, and then Pledge Mage. I think you want Tendrils, probably. I wish I had the Drake instead of the Zimone to make the Tendrils work better.
Yeah.
But you do want the removal spell. You might get, like, there's a Drake that you might wheel. Yeah, snap up a second Mortality Spear. I think I would be on the campus here. A little sad about it. I do like Teachings of the Archaics, but I want my mana to work. Here I'd be on the Pledge Mage.
What are your thoughts on Pledge Mage?
I like it. Yeah, like I'm happy about it. This kind of deck, really easy Lash of Malice. Like I like Witherbloom Pledge Mage more than I like Quandrix Pledge Mage. That doesn't say a whole lot because it's more just I don't like Quandrix Pledge Mage, but
Sure.
Witherbloom Pledge Mage is like low end solid playable for me, but like I'm not sad to put it in my deck.
Sure.
Fine with charge through there, but I would note that I think Resculpt is like secretly playable. Yeah, whatever. You're not going to splash either of those cards, I hope.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think it's pretty clear we're Quandrix splashing black for like spear, witch, maybe lash, maybe go blank.
Yeah, I mean that's a big splash, right? So like at that point we might just be like green splashing blue and black or whatever.
Sure.
Or just potentially even solid 3, but again, I would hope not to play. Okay. So this is a strong pack. I think I'm taking Eliminate. You didn't pick up there was a past summoning early in pack 2 that I wanted. I think you didn't pick it up.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't think I actually have any learn cards yet. Like I don't think we actually have one.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, you don't.
so I think you just take eliminate here.
Like I recall this draft being very peculiar. Like it obviously
Right.
we first picked Cody, we kind of got away from it. We had zero learn cards. Like it felt like a very atypical draft. It kind of just like very weird in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. All right. Now easy putrefy, further solidifying this, full Sultai mess. Little light on fixing for where we are. Kind of. Oh, well, sciences would help if we had any learn cards. I still
Exactly. Yeah,
think
it's
I could
weird.
try to find learn cards to make the mana work, but
I mean, how often are you
yeah, I
playing
think
sciences in your main deck, like in like weird scenarios like this?
I mean, if I literally don't find any learn, I guess I would do it, but I'm certainly gonna hope to pick up 2 learn cards in the rest of this draft or
Yeah,
whatever. Um, I think that, given that you have no learn, taking the teachings of the archaic over the campus hurt a lot.
that's fair. That's very fair. Yeah.
Uh, this is tough. The sage is going to be really hard to cast. It's obviously the best card here, but I think I might be on feeling obligated to take a campus with this pick. Like, you obviously don't need fractal summoning. Sage is going to be hard to cast. Opt is lower impact than a campus. Hunt gets you your thing and is reasonable if you think you're going to be base black enough to cast the hunt reliably.
Yeah, I
Which,
think that you can see me. I'm
yeah.
cutting the blue cards. I think that was my point,
Okay. Yeah,
my
yeah,
thought
yeah.
process.
So this is between Curve and Colony. Uh, and I think I'm on Colony. Yeah. And now this is a Rise over Subtraction. I think you're black enough that I'm taking Rise over Subtraction here.
Yeah, I think my thought process here. I don't think I take the rise. I don't have many lessons because I don't have many learn cards. Obviously, I think we had. I don't recall exactly what we have honestly, but and also like I take rise. Okay.
You do take the Rise. Okay.
Yeah.
This pack is horrible. I would take Letter of Acceptance. That one's not a playable. I don't know if you were taking it for the gems, but I would take Letter
I
here.
might have. Yeah. I don't know.
Um, I think you're supposed to take Mage Duel here.
Yeah, I passed in the duels. I feel like I was kind of light on creatures.
Yeah,
And
I
I
don't
also
think
had
you,
so much
I mean,
removal already
you have a
too.
bunch of 2 drops. You can cast Mage Duel there, and you don't really have top end for you to be ramping into. So I think the Mage Duel there would be quite a bit better than the Field Trip.
Okay. What are your thoughts on field trip overall?
I like it a lot with Elemental Summoning, and like I like it if you have like Elemental Summoning and Fractal Summoning, and I like it if you have like big stuff you're ramping into. But if you're just like I'm a typical like my curve is if your curve is like this, it's real whatever.
Okay. I've been playing it almost all the time in like decks
Yeah,
like this
and I
too.
mean, I think it's rare that you want to cut it, but it's not a very impressive card with a curve like this if you don't have elemental and fractal summonings.
Yeah, I think this build is a bit off because I built it. I think I only had like 2 islands in my deck or some. I had some low amount of islands that wasn't correct, and like after a game or two, I changed it. Um,
Okay.
but I mean, this is the basic build. It's kind of it's a weird deck. Like as far as the games went, the witch is very very good because we were kind of like this like almost Sultai control-y standard deck where we kind of were like killing things, play a cultivator, play witch, kill a thing. Like
Hmm.
we had so many removal spells. But again, like
Yeah.
no learn cards really, so it didn't feel like a Strixhaven draft deck, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Um, yeah. It's You mentioned how many removal spells you had, and I'm just thinking about like, wow, my draft in this seat would have had so much removal.
Sure, I guess we did patch like 9 lashes. So
Yeah.
okay, so that's draft one. So overall, like wrapping thoughts for this particular draft.
I mean, I think that you did like, Black was just like comically open the whole draft. You
Mhm.
managed to like pivot in and take advantage of it, which is good. Like I think that you definitely got paid off for like jumping into the Sedgemoor Witch, which was not like, there were solid cards in your colors that wasn't a forced pick or anything. And yeah, I mean, overall, like you ended up with a deck with like, reasonable game plan, reasonable curve, good power level. Very different space than I would have gone to, but I do think that, you're just going to get that a lot with like any 2 drafters in this format. Like there
Mhm.
are just a lot of reasonable different ways to approach the format. So I think, as far as like my thoughts both big picture and pick by pick, I think, was largely covered by the pick by pick analysis here.
Okay.
I guess the one sort of like somewhat big picture note, it would be when I'm in three color, go like, I try to prioritize like making my mana work super highly if I'm three color. Like I
Mhm.
think that, you're not short on playables. Like you have a lot of playable cards in your sideboard here. Like it wouldn't be bad if you had like Curator Subtraction or whatever, or like Leech Fanatic in your deck. So I get to a point where if I'm three color, I'm taking like on color campuses and letter and stuff like that over like anything that's not like a legit like bomb type card. If it's like replacement level or like high level common, I'm like, yeah, I'll get a playable common instead of this. It'll be fine.
So are you playing letter in this deck all the time?
Uh, no, I'm not like if letter's not good in my like letter's not good in your curve here. If I have enough fixing that my mana is solid without it, I'm not going to play it. But I think that you took like something. Well, I mean, you took Witherbloom command over letter, and I'm not saying I would necessarily play the letter, but I would take letter over Witherbloom command to make sure that I'm going to be happy with my mana at the end.
Okay. All right, and then
Um,
okay, and then last thought: the Cogwork Archivist, is that card like a main deckable card in this deck?
so Archivist is a Quandrix card. Well, Archivist is a card that I basically play only if I either am like Quandrix with some ramp and desperately need a reach creature, or I'm looking for an artifact for Reconstruct History.
Okay.
Um, so like, could you get away with playing an Archivist in this deck? Yes, because you have Field Trip, you don't have a lot of top end, and you don't have a ton of like reach blockers. Would it be good? I mean, like the Eureka moments, I guess, also help play it early, but like you do have enough removal spells to mostly be covered against flyers,
Mhm.
so I wouldn't be excited about playing it. But if you were like, yeah, this is my next playable, and I don't like my other options or whatever, I wouldn't be like, oh, this is a nightmare. You had to play like an
Okay.
Archivist.
So I think that I added it like because we like tweaked the deck a little bit as we were going on, and by the third or fourth game I had like added a few more islands and added the Archivist. I don't recall what I cut, but
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, like, I would certainly sooner add the Archivist than like the 3-2 gain two or whatever.
okay. All right, cool. So party thoughts or next draft?
Next draft.
Cool. Next draft. Next draft. Come on. There we go. All right.
Great start.
Yeah, right.
10 out of 10.
Where's Poet's Quill in your
Really strong
like
pack.
top cards in the set?
I mean, it's like, I don't know, top five rares.
Okay.
But maybe there are some, top five rare non-mythic. Very, very high.
Okay. So
So
I agree.
here,
It seems insane.
I think this is just Inkling summoning. Humiliate would be fine. I think not Inkling summoning or Humiliate would be a pretty big mistake.
What so when you, if you're first picking Quill, what is your like your desired path? Like
I
Silver
mean,
Quill.
like default is Silver Quill just because like Silver Quill is strong, but I'm happy to be anything. Like Poet's Quill is going to be like Poet's Quill adds more to a Witherbloom deck than it adds to a Silver Quill deck by a lot,
Mhm.
but Silver Quill by default is better than Witherbloom by a lot. So happy to go either of those directions. Also totally happy to go Jameer. Like putting Poet's Quill on a Serpentine curve means I like basically can't lose.
Sure.
It also just like contributes to my in general. I want a bunch of learn cards, bunch of lessons type plan. Like it's I have a bomb. It's flexible. If I'm playing a control deck, I'm more likely to draw my bomb at some point. But it's also like equipment is a little bit better fundamentally in aggro decks.
Okay.
I'm happy to go anywhere with it.
Okay. Yeah, I yap here a bit, but somebody's the pick.
Um, I think I take Pilgrim of the Ages, either that or Fractal Summoning.
Yeah, the pack's pretty weak. Like,
Yeah, if you're like really into like Bayou Graph Witherbloom, like if that's just your jam, you could maybe take Bayou. I don't know what it's like to be that person.
yeah,
Um,
I haven't actually cast that card in 13 drafts.
but
So
I guess you could be like Honor Troll and like try to do like that thing, but at that, I mean, I would rather have a Fractal Summoning than an Honor Troll if I'm going Witherbloom. So, um, this I think is like between. I mean, it's between Eye Twitch and Pest Summoning. Um, And given that you took the fractal summoning, so you have 2 lessons already, I'm probably taking the eye twitch, but I wouldn't. I would be totally comfortable with the pest summoning instead.
Come on, Pass Jim, you can do it. I actually don't remember what I took here. So, all right, cool. So very different than our last draft because now we have all learn and lesson cards in our first 4 picks as opposed to having 0.
And here I'm slamming Rise of Exodus. I wouldn't even know what other card to consider.
How do you value Study Break in the more aggressive decks?
Oh, it's very good if you're aggressive.
Okay.
This is like this pick. Like to answer that question, I think this pick is very close between Study Break and Silverquill Pledge Mage.
Yeah, I think I've undervalued Silverquill Pledge Mage.
Like, are you saying that for you? Like, do you have Leech Fanatic over Silverquill Pledge Mage?
I am not sure.
Okay.
I haven't drafted. I feel like whenever I'm in those colors, I'm just like my decks aren't good. I'm just not really sure. I'm very very lost in that area.
Sure.
Like I tend to lean towards 2 drops. I'd probably take Fnatic over Pledge Mage. Yeah, that's
Okay. I think there are a lot more good 2 drops than good 3 drops in Silverquill.
Okay.
Which is fine though because there are the lessons at 3. So given that you have Rise and Poet's Quill and you already have Inkling Summoning, I could see taking Pilgrim over Inkling Summoning, but I'm also fine having a second Inkling Summoning.
Okay.
I think that's pretty close. This is between Poet, Pledge Mage, Annihilation. And I don't value Poet super highly. It is good with Quill. Kind of fine with any of those 3. This is between Hunt and Anatomy. Again, pretty close. I think I lean Hunt because you're pretty good on lessons, but fine with Anatomy.
Is it Anatomy like really, really, really good?
It is.
Okay.
Hunt is also really, really good.
I guess we don't know like how aggressive we are yet. I think in my mind,
Yeah.
I was sort of like already aggressive at this point.
Okay.
Even though we're not Silverquill yet, I just like had like an aggressive mindset. I
Right.
guess.
Like you have like Poet's Quill gives you a lot of like, game strength. You have Rise of Exodus. You have access to a fractal summoning if you go that direction. So I'm not locked on aggro at this point. So, and like the Silverquill Pledge Mage to me is pretty good playing both ways, where like it's great in aggro, but also that just like the 3/1 lifelinker can get you a lot of time in control decks. Yeah, I think I like having a mix of cards there rather than having 2 disappointments. Oh, that's a nice one.
Yeah, I think that also was kind of like, oh wow, okay, that's like not a card that should go last. So
Taking Combat Professor over the rares here. You have plenty of power. I don't think it's worth like messing up your mana for one of those things.
yeah, I believe I had the same thought process. Scroll Wither is definitely better than Bolt, right?
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Yeah.
Bolt might be better.
Okay.
Here I'm taking Combat Professor again.
Over Sciences.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the point where we're like now we're happy to commit Silverquill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, especially with like the last pick of your first year and stuff, and like there's just no reason not to do the thing you're doing.
Okay.
And then I'd be a little bit sad that I did that and can't take the Professor of Zoomancy here and instead have to take nothing. But
Sure.
Yeah, this pick is a disaster.
You can like see that in my face.
I might take the basic conjuration for the gems in this pack. If I were trying to win the draft, I'd probably take Containment Breach and see if I end up with like a random Witherbloom campus and get to have a lesson.
Sure.
I really don't care about those 1 and 2 drops, but it's fine to take one of them. But I just like I think the draft's going well enough that you won't have to play them, so I'd take the lesson upside. Here I'm taking Leech Fanatic. Easy Hunt.
This is kind of funny because like I have bad seasonal allergies, so I'll occasionally like pop off screen to blow my nose, and now I'm going to experience like watching that.
Yeah, I'm like I don't know how it's taken this long to select the Hunt.
Right? Yeah, I was off screen for a second there. So aside from that one bad pack where we took the Star Pupil, everything's gone reasonably well this draft for us. Things have fallen.
Oh
our way.
yeah. This has been this draft is just smooth sailing Silverquill so far, basically. There were definitely a bunch of spots where it's like, do I take a busted learn card or a busted lesson? But I think I'm on guiding voice here.
So what
Yeah,
is
I
your
think
opinion
I'm
on Onslaught?
I'm not particularly into it. I think that it is hard to generate meaningful value off of a 4 mana sorcery speed removal spell. Like you're basically like locked into trading roughly even, often slightly down on mana. You get to answer something that might have been annoying, but like I don't know. To me, I want my removal to be cheap and or instant.
Okay, and
Um,
that's for Silver Quill or just in general?
that's just a statement about Magic.
Okay. So are you typically low on like the generic like 4 mana sorcery kill a creature in every limited
Yeah.
format?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not apparently. So
Uh, this is between Beaming Defiance and Intro Prof. I hate the Windrake.
what was the? I'm sorry,
The laureate.
Lori. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a Windrake. It has like a bunch of fancy words on it, but it's a Windrake. Here's another guiding voice.
At this point, we have anatomy double summoning.
Found the campus.
Yeah, as I know, of course, we're playing best of one. So,
Yeah, easy campus.
what are your thoughts on the rest of this format?
Uh, okay, in some decks, not excited about it. Desperately want campus here. Um, yeah. Oh,
Some gems.
fair enough.
I have no shame.
I also have no shame about taking gems, but it would be hard for me to not take a lesson, just because, like,
Sure,
sometimes you run out of lessons and you're like, I'm gonna learn for a lesson so that my next learn discards the lesson
sure,
or
that's fair.
whatever.
That's fair. I mean, we have a
Plus,
pretty high
like the
concentration of
Witherbloom
learn.
campus upside potential. Take study break here.
How high are you in poet?
Uh, I think it's, so like there's like the fanatic poet eager first year that are all like comparable twos.
Mm-hmm.
I think that on average I like it less than the other two, but in some decks it's better.
Really? Ah, okay. I was under the impression that poet was like a really important part of Silver Quill decks, just like as a it flies, it pushes damage, it's 2 drop
Yeah,
obviously.
there is a way to draft Silver Quill where one would regularly prioritize it over the others. Um,
Okay.
I I think that I like prioritize study break more, and therefore like flying is less important.
Okay, that's fair. I seem to be enamored by the many, many words on Shaping Laureate, and looking back, not very happy with that pick. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my card's a Windrake. This is very blurry. Uh, I think I like the blurry Mythic over the blurry Lesson and the Humiliate, but it's close. I mean, I guess you're a lot more black than white, which makes the blurry Mythic kind of hard. Fine
Yeah.
with Humiliate. Uh, yeah, I think I take Anatomy, and I'm increasingly sad about whatever we took the Anatomy over last time.
What are your thoughts on the 5 drop flyer in Silver Quill?
Do you mean the gold one or do you mean the white one?
The white one, the returns a
The
creature.
white one I like only if you have like good rares that it gets back.
Okay.
I like Hunt far over Arrogant Poet.
So at this point we have Voice, Twitch, Hunt, Poet's Quill,
Ooh,
Rise,
Eliminate versus
5 lore
Professor
card.
is interesting. Yeah, so I generally like Eliminate over Professor, but I don't. I think that given the way that you're going with like the multiple poets and multiple shade wings, it makes sense to take Professor.
Okay.
This pick is extremely blurry. I think I like Study Break.
think I agree here. Yeah, this draft felt very smooth. Like it felt like I mean, most of the things, everything just kind of fell into place. The professors kind of put me into white. The white kind of worked out. We have something to learn
Yeah.
cards. You see the record on the screen. This draft did not go that well, and made me very angry at Silver Quill. I
Yeah,
probably
so I
threw.
would have been, I think like I would have been prioritizing like lesson and learn synergies in Silver Quill a lot more highly, whereas you're prioritizing flyers more highly.
Okay.
So like big picture, I would say just like I think the fact that Hunt for Specimens is better than Arrogant Poet is like kind of like centrally important understanding about Silver Quill.
Okay. So you're like, are you saying you're trying to be more grindy as opposed to like the being that like all in kind of just.
Yeah, right. Like you're still aggressive, but like you don't not play value to be aggressive. Um,
Okay, in my mind, like Silver Quill was like the anti deck, where it was sort of like the okay, well, if someone's
right,
gonna waste their time learning and doing whatever slow rampy stuff, like Silver Quill's the deck that kills them. But you're saying that,
right.
that Silver Quill can tussle with
I'm
the
saying
kind
you
of
can
grindy
just do
stuff.
both.
Okay.
Um, where like your hunt finds your inkling summoning and like now you're just like up a card from hunt into inkling summoning but having been your start instead of poet and laureate being your start.
Okay.
And like you're not that much less aggressive but you have just like a whole extra card in your hand.
Sure. Okay, that's fair. All right, so yeah, the draft finishes up. So yeah, I mean, this draft, I went 1-3 in the game in games. I think I screwed up one of the games like gameplay wise. Obviously, when I'm playing and streaming, I'm like hitting my soundboard and stuff. I'm not always playing perfectly, but like
Sure.
I was pretty unhappy after this draft, where I was like, this deck looks great. I have a great bomb rare. I've got triple combat professor, pretty good curve, decent removal spells. Like this deck looked really good when I drafted it. I was like, oh, all right, we did it. We got to get Silver Quill deck,
Right.
double summoning, double anatomy, and it just
Yeah,
didn't
I
work.
mean, like you have like a lot of cards that I just wouldn't have ended up with that I think drag the power down quite a bit. Like the
Okay.
three arrogant poets I see as like fillery. The Shadewing laureates I think are like on the actively bad side. Mage hunters onslaught's fillery, and this is like a bunch of stuff that you like valued over just like having like a really deep, robust like learn lesson package with like a bunch of study breaks. Then you get like creatures with a little more power, and you're like better at winning races because like your creatures hit harder and don't cost life to do it, and you're like better at doing the like tap out your blockers or tap your attackers that you can't be racing type stuff. Um, so it's like, the best cards are all, the same because it's just like, well, we found the good cards and we took them. But I think there's like some pretty big differences in terms of like rounding out the deck that happened with this draft.
Okay, so say in an ideal scenario, so to remove Shadewing, Poet, Onslaught. That's 5 cards. Like what 5 commons and uncommons would make this deck be a better version of this deck?
So you could have had like, um, I don't know, I think like two more hunts and one or two more study breaks and then a few more good lessons.
Okay.
Like I would have had like a couple of like I'd have one or two past summonings. Um and so like between like the I just have like a lot more like random tokens that are gonna like use the poet's quill well, give me like random places to like put anatomy that are pretty like low risk, low investment. Like if they answer my like random pest token, I
Right.
didn't really get 2 for 1. Um, and then like just having like those extra random bodies are going to let me like leverage the combat professors a little bit more. Um, I think that there might have been like I don't remember if there was a pilgrim in this draft that I might have picked up, which does something similar.
I think there was one early in pack 1.
Okay.
I think
Um,
we took a black card over it. Kind of stayed open because we'd taken the summoning, the fractal summoning like second. So
mhm. And then
actually,
like
it might have actually been fractal summoning over Pilgrim second pick.
okay, yeah, that sounds like it might be right. I probably would have taken the fractal summoning
Okay.
there to be open to being like do mirror with her bloom, but then I would have ended up silver quill. Um, yeah, and like even with the cards you have here, I don't think I would play the Mage Hunter's Onslaught. I think I would prefer Beaming Defiance or Defend Campus.
Okay.
I value instant speed really highly in removal because I think that like instant speed is how you can get card advantage out of a removal spell by
Okay.
like blowing out a combat trick or a double block or something like that. Um, which again, I mean, this particular deck, it's not very likely that your opponent's double blocking. So you're like less likely to get value there.
Hmm.
Like instant speed removal. It's a lot easier to set up like blast with instant speed removal when you have big creatures where you're like, oh, they're going to use a combat trick and then I'm going to use a removal spell and they're going to think they're beating my big creature, but they're actually not. Whereas if you're all little stuff, your opponent never needs to use a combat trick, never needs to double block. So it like the sorcery speed removal hurts you a little bit less in a deck like this compared to instant speed removal, especially where you're in a spot where it's like, yeah, I just have a bunch of evasive flyers and I just want a removal spell to take out their flying blocker. So like if you're thinking, well, I want Mage Hunter's Onslaught rather than defend the campus because half of the time I'm going to be targeting a Needlethorn Drake with it, then it's like, okay, I can respect that.
Okay.
But yeah, and I mean I think Beaming Defiance. I would be playing the Beaming Defiance because you have the 2 expanded anatomies, and a bunch of flyers, and I think that you're gonna like find a lot of spots where it's gonna be a lot safer to like move in on anatomy on a flyer kill you if you have the Defiance.
So you're trying to set up like a turn 5, like anatomy, and then protective for the next turn. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and then last question: duress in this deck, main deck or no?
I think yes, because you're not playing the Defiance and have the 2 anatomies, and it's in a similar way to like make sure the coast is clear before moving in on an anatomy.
Okay. Cool. Any parting thoughts on this draft?
Nope, just the stuff I covered.
Okay, cool. All right, next draft.
All right, is this a Slam Finale Ghost Overquill again?
I believe so.
Okay.
Are there any other cards you would consider taking over Finale here?
I mean, the other good card, like, if you have a strong preference for not, you could take the, like, Field Trip, but I mean, I'm not in love with Finale, but I still think Field Trip over Finale is taking a reasonable power level hit, so I think you're just supposed to take the Finale.
Okay. Hopefully my disdain for Silver Quill is not spoiling the results of these drafts too much.
I believe you're supposed to just juke here. It's either that or like say I'm not married to this Finale and I'm gonna take like Counterspell.
This is interesting because a lot of my YouTube comments for this video, not that you can really trust those really super well, were like you should just take Counterspell and like open yourself up or whatever. Like Counterspell is pretty good, right? I mean,
yeah.
Is it? You think it's better or worse than Negate?
I think it's a little bit better.
But better? Okay. And like
yeah, I mean,
feel
just like knowing that it's going to work is pretty nice. Obviously, the cast cost is super real, but like there's something to be said for like on this turn I want to spend my mana in this way, and I know I'm going to be able to do it if they make any play.
Okay. And then what's your opinion on Juke overall?
Fine. It's like roughly equivalent to like a Silver Quill Pledge Mage.
Okay. Yeah, I mean this pack's obviously pretty mopey, so
yeah.
Talking.
I mean, I think Academic Probation's defensible there.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, like, you can't block this turn is like a pretty realistic thing to learn for in an aggressive deck.
Okay. I have not cast that card yet, I don't think. So
yeah.
I think I've had it maybe in my board, just not gotten it, but I'm not sure.
That like usually I learn about constructed cards from playing limited. That one I think is one where like I played like the white prowess deck in standard, and it's just like, oh wow, this lesson is like way better than all of my other lessons because it's just like cheap and the games are super short and I'm basically a combo deck.
Sure.
And then it's just like, yeah, it's not like that hard to end up in like that kind of space with the Silver Quill aggro deck.
Okay.
Here is another pack that's kind of a nightmare for where you're at. I would probably just say I would probably take the Elemental Summoning. Just say I might have to like jump ship.
Okay.
Just like be prepared to abandon the Finale if Silver Quill continues to not be open.
Yeah, I think
I don't think there's a lot of upside to any of the other picks.
Yeah, I think this is a draft where I really like. I think I was like sort of there's like a psychological saying for it. It's in like I know it's like a poker saying for when you're kind of like tilting off a little bit and you just push it more, where like,
sure.
So you kind of like you push yourself, like you just keep going that direction because you're kind of mad and you're kind of like self-defeating yourself, I guess, where like I really blinded this draft, where the last draft, like Silver Quill was obviously very open, but I was like, I lost anyway. And now I'm like, I almost want to like prove to myself in this draft that Silver Quill is terrible. So is there more? So the I'm sorry. So the summoning is
No,
the
no, I think it's just that pack was horrible, so I would take Elemental Summoning. Because there were no Silver Quill cards there, I'm like, maybe the person passing to me is Silver Quill. I need to give myself an off-ramp just in case. I'm
okay.
not like trying to pivot into using this Elemental Summoning, but I don't care about Agonizing Remorse, and I do care about having like a little bit of a like safety valve here.
Okay, so basically, like
Um,
the value of summoning is exponentially higher than like a mediocre card that like will make my deck if I'm manage to stay into it. But okay,
right. So here, I would just take Guiding Voice. It'd be pretty hard to take a different card. I guess if I had taken, it's weird. Like you could, if I had taken the elemental summoning, I might take the intro prof just for flexibility. But like it's weird because the intro prof's not very good if I'm Silver Quill, but it's not horrible.
mm-hmm.
So, but given that you took the remorse, I think it's an easy voice.
Okay,
Um, half to anatomy from where you are.
yeah. I mean, the last two picks were like sort of like, all right, this is like the packs are still pretty weak, but like they're at least lining up a bit.
Right. There's a clear, like, there's not a good reason to take something else in a clear playable for where you are, but it's also like, there should be some like danger signs where it's like, all right, I'm taking, like, while I'm having picks, there's exactly one card for me, so this doesn't feel open.
Right. Where are we at here?
Uh, Drowning. Uh, yeah, that last one was hard. You really don't want to play two agonizing remorse, but also everything there was like there wasn't really like something that stood out as a reason to go somewhere else. Um, yeah. Here, I think you just take eye twitch and you're a little surprised that it's still there.
How do you value Mage Hunter in general?
Uh, I think it's generally worse than the flying four drops. Like basically, I think that it's usually worse in Silver Quill than Spectre of the Fens, and I don't generally have trouble getting Spectre of the Fens, but I do think it's like so playable filler.
Okay.
I think I'm on Intro Annihilation over Cram Session.
Really? How do you value the Annihilation?
Uh, I would take like an aggressive card over it, but I wouldn't take just like learn like off plan learn over it.
Okay. I mean, like I guess like pest summoning. I see we have like learn cards anyway. Sure. Okay. I'm seeing pest summoning with finale and like possibly being an avenue, but so wanting like more learn cards. We already have some learn cards. That kind of makes sense.
Wait. Oh, I see. You're saying you wanted to take Cram Session in case you found pest summoning. So
Right.
you
Kind of
got
like
more
if we're like end up
summoning?
being like a more like tokeny learny deck than like
Yeah,
a
I
pure
mean, you
silver
have
quill
Eye
deck.
Twitch and Guiding Voice. Like, I think Silver Quill has like a lot of good learn cards, and Cram is like the literal worst castable learn card.
Sure. That's fair.
If you're like aggressive. So I would, because I want to be taking and playing and prioritizing learn cards, I want optionality with my lessons. I've found having access to Intro to Annihilation to be pretty good. Like the card's not good, but it's so different from what the other learn cards do
Yeah.
that the optionality is valuable.
Yeah, that's been a card where like in at least one or two games across this series, I've been like, well, if I had an annihilation in my sideboard, we win this game, we just lose in the spot. So
Yeah, there's a lot of like this will kill blocker and I'll win the game, or like, oh, my opponent has dramatic finale. I need an answer to it. I
right,
mean,
they put the
like,
Quandrix Dragon or whatever. It's just like, all right, cool,
yeah.
I guess.
I think I take disappointment. Would be fine if you want to take elocution or whatever. I think I take disappointment though.
Is Elocution playable?
Uh, in some versions of decks, generally when they have multiple Killians.
Okay, that's fair. Is Carrick Wrangler playable?
So I am told that it is, but I've never put it in my deck.
Okay, I think what I was thinking was possibly like either abandoning white or kind of trying to be like heavy black with a little bit of green. That was like my thought process there. Like I was saying with
Sure.
the pest summoning thing. Which obviously doesn't
Yeah.
do green, but like rough first pack because obviously the packs seem pretty weak.
Since this pick is actually pretty interesting. I think it's ingredient, but I could see it like I could see Gambit.
I think I ingrediented. So I think I didn't feel like that white was really open at all. So I was trying to
Right.
find some way to
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
pivot out.
Right. Maybe you're mono black.
Yeah, yeah, right. I feel like I've had about half a dozen games across this series where the person plays out monocolored land, scoops on turn 4 every time, and just like swamp, 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 concede. All right, it's a pretty bad first pack, but
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
really
Not
much
not moving
there.
your way. Yeah. So do you just I can't see the whole pack here, but I assume we're slamming Combat Professor. Or are you still trying to pivot out of white somehow? Yeah, I think you just
Yeah,
accept
I don't
what
know
it
what else you
is.
could take in this pack that's not Professor. Like,
Yeah.
it's also like, I mean, so I guess this is an interesting question, like a little more macro wild. Like, so in a pack like that, pack one, where you feel like white isn't that open, but you have a reason you want to be white, whether it's a rare or like an archetype that you like. What's the merit of, well, I passed obviously 0 white because I didn't see any white that pack. Can I accept getting white pack 2 and getting cut again pack 3? So like, is it like a viable, like, you knowing you'll get the white hook up in pack 2?
So, like, in a lot of spots, it's like when you like have a deck and white was cut in pack one, but you have a white rare, then your other color you have reason to believe is going to be pretty open from that direction. And so you're like, okay, I'll go black pack one, white pack two, black pack three. And like that works fine. Um, but it's like here it's hard to commit to that because it didn't particularly feel like black or white was open.
Sure.
On the other hand, I don't know what was open.
Right.
Like you, and so like it's weird where like you don't know if like you were getting cut or the packs were just bad or what was happening because it wasn't like one of those drafts where it's like, and then I had to pass like 2 Ruthas and a like, it's like it wasn't like there was some obvious second lane that you were just like tunnel visioning in and ignoring. It was just like, yeah, there's this card isn't good, but I'm not getting a strong reason to go anywhere else either.
Okay.
So I mean, at this point, I think you're just like, I'm in danger, but I'm staying in my lane because I don't know what else to do.
Sure. My lane's bad, but there is no other. It's just this one dark path.
Yeah, it's just
through
a
the
traffic
woods.
jam. Like you can't like shift into the left lane because there are cars there too. But
Right. Okay. Come on, players. Can't realistically fast forward without clicking past something. So what's like your thought process in a draft like this? Like you're at a pro tour. It's round one, draft one. This is your deck so far. Like, what's your out? Like, what's your? I often say on these in the series
well,
that
you
like
need to be preparing some good beat stories about how the draft went.
sure. It's like I try to.
Try to explain to your friends that the fact that you lost this one doesn't say anything about you as a player.
So I feel like one of the things I try to repeat in this Bronze Mythic series is that like your goal as a drafter is to always avoid the train wreck. Just don't have that 0-3 draft. You need to at least pull a 3-3 in all of your drafts. Like find whatever you need to find to like make your deck at least functional enough to get a few wins. Like don't just take the L kind of thing. I feel like I'm always trying to look for that, whatever that avenue might be. So I'm not sure what I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just need to like, I don't know. I'm just hoping it turns around a little bit. Again, like hoping, like you said, well, I didn't pass anything, so maybe we're gonna get a spicy pack here.
It is one of those spots where playing, obviously, in like the league format's much worse because if you're playing in pod, everyone else's decks suck
Yeah.
too. But yeah,
Yeah, easy rise.
second probation. Come on, arena drafters, you can do it.
If you want to switch this to like 2x or whatever, since we're not like listening to the audio anyway,
Yeah.
and then you can just pause a little more liberally.
Okay.
I'm sure you take Onslaught, and I think I would too. I guess it's like the Shield Mage is the other playable. I think they're both like, not cards I'm not what I'm looking for, but playable. Might take the Shield Mage just because Dramatic Finale pushes toward 1 in creature density, but I don't think it's gonna matter much one way or another which one of those cards you take there.
So do your picks change at all when you feel like your deck is going really badly? Like, is there like do you want like removal more, or do you want like flyers
No,
or some
I
sort
don't think
of.
so. And it's not like we're like late. Like this draft could still turn out fine. I'm not. No, I'm not like going into panic mode or something here.
Yeah, it's sort of like the
Uh,
converse of like when your deck is really, really good. You want to make sure you can cast your spells. You take the
sure.
campus over the decent uncommon or whatever. Like, is there a
Right.
converse to that when your deck's going badly? There's something you're looking for to try and like salvage.
I mean, so like obviously in the spot where like everything's going well, it's basically just like, all right, there's like a bunch of like check mark, boxes that I'm looking to make sure I have covered. Like I have enough removal, I have a good curve, etc. When your deck's not going well, it's like, all right, well, what do I have going for me and what do I have not working for me? Like what am I most desperate for here? Do I need to make sure I have a removal spell? Do I need to make sure I have a functional curve? Do I like not have any threats? And see, it's just about figuring out like, okay, there are a lot of holes. What's the biggest hole? Like, how do
Sure.
I patch these leaks?
Okay.
Um, Here, I think you're supposed to take the Leech Fanatic. Um, you don't really have, you literally don't have 2 mana creatures. That's a problem for a Dramatic Finale deck. Dramatic Finale is really good when you have like board presence and like pretty useless if you don't.
Sure.
So, uh,
I get the feeling I'm taking Shadewing again. Just like I'm enamored with this card for some reason. I don't really know why.
yeah, definitely summoning here.
I think I have been like very just like if I am Silver Quill, I have to have every flyer possible. That's just like a mindset
Sure.
that I'm not sure where I picked it up. Just like that's just the mindset that I've had going into
I've
these.
heard people say it. Um, we Leech Fanatic here though, right?
I'd hope so. So much I was like a take here. So, and I do like Leech Fanatic. Like I liked in the last format. What was the 2-drop Lifelinker in white?
The Story
Yes, they
Seeker.
like that. I love that card in the last format.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Uh, Guiding voice
It's
here.
voicing here, right? Yeah.
My chat is correctly pointing out that blue red is comically wide open this draft, but I don't know how you get there. I mean, so maybe if you'd taken the like elemental summoning
Mm-hmm.
line, there might have been a way to like find that lane, but I think once you were like 3 or 4 picks in, you weren't going to be able to get there from here.
Yeah, the finale is obviously very like locking.
Yeah, yeah, it's very hard to pivot out of finale. I mean, short of just full abandoning it, which is
Right.
why, like I don't think there's a lot of advantage to being like, oh, like so where you took like the Carrack, where it's like maybe I'll pivot. It's like, yeah, finale doesn't really let you pivot. So like that's why like really early on, I wanted to take the thing where it's not a pivot, it's a hard jump shift.
Sure.
If this isn't here, I just full abandon because like I never like I see a lot of people playing like finale with like I don't know 5 lands in their deck that can't cast it or whatever,
Right.
and I just don't want to be in that spot.
For sure, yeah. I'm pretty hard line against that. I don't want to have any if possible, obviously.
Yeah,
If I was splashing like that green card off like 2 campuses and a forest maybe or something, but like that card's not even
right.
good. So you're right. Like yeah, pretty messy. Must be nice. So I've had this card cast against me once and it was absolutely busted. Obviously,
Yeah, it's a strong card.
yeah,
I think that you should take it.
yeah. I mean,
All right, now we get a Professor Symbology. Finally starting to look up.
yeah. Feeling like we're actually getting somewhere as far as card quality, and then right back to it.
Study break.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I would take over break here. So so Intro to Annihilation's now not on your radar.
Not over study break.
Okay.
I'm taking Pledge Mage. So this is a spot where you're like, when your deck's going badly, like if your deck's going well, you maybe get to take the campus there, but your
Sure.
deck's going badly, so you have to take the Pledge Mage because you need to make sure you have playables, curve, threat. Like you need card count at this point.
Mm. Opinion on the playability of Spiteful Squad?
Technically playable.
What?
Technically playable.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely not. Also not super thrilled. So
I would take Lash here.
Yeah, I think I've undervalued Lash like significantly. I think I've had the idea in my head that this is like a very big play format, so I don't want the shock. But I think that's just very, very wrong.
Also, I just want a main deckable card rather than a sideboard card because I think you're kind of hurting for main deck cards.
That's fair.
Here, maybe you might be able to Clever Lumimancer. You don't want to be in a Clever Lumimancer spot, though.
Is it a card you're happy to have in your deck ever?
Yeah, if I'm like deep on, like Guiding Voice, Steady Break, like if I'm, if my 2-drops are, Hunt for Specimens, like if you're deep on the Lesson Learned thing, it's, very good.
Okay.
Really happy to get a free campus. Pillar Drop, I think.
Yeah, our curve's pretty abysmal, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, like Pillar Drop at least like plays well with Finale.
Yeah,
just gives you a lot of bodies to turn into tokens.
Yes, as the draft's winding down, this was a nice fat 0-3. Definitely, cemented my disdain for Silverquill. I mean, obviously a very awkward draft. I mean, we never drew a dragon. Obviously, we drew Finale, but as you said, earlier, someone predicting we had like one creature in play, or whatever, right. And like it never was effective in the game because the creature we were blocking was too big or whatever it was. It didn't really make a difference in the game.
You need to be ahead for it to be really good.
Yeah. So pretty train wrecky of a draft. Probably the worst draft I've had in the entire series, and the result was as expected. So, any final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean there were like a few spots where you could have prioritized, cheap creature over not, and like, the most important was really just giving yourself like an off ramp into finding your way into the Prismari deck that you probably should have ended up in that draft, but like.
I think that the pick through not taking the summoning and pick through was disastrous.
Yeah.
So, all right, next draft.
Yep. So this pick is really hard. So cards that stand out as cards that I like a lot: Body of Urch, Necrotic Fumes, Quandrix Cultivator, Hunt for Specimens, Past Summoning, Field Trip. It's a lot of things. I don't know if I like Fumes or Past Summoning more. I like Hunt more than Field Trip. I am not sure if I like Cultivator or Body of Research more. And then there's, a significant amount of dealer's choice regarding color preference here. I think at a PT, I would go to time.
5 seconds. Select your card.
I'm feeling the most pull toward Fumes.
Toward Fumes, really? With the intent to go what colors?
I would prioritize Hunt for Specimens.
Okay, sure. Okay, so I take Cultivator over here over Body. With my
totally like literally any of the cards I said.
Now, are you strong either Body or Cultivator, or are you also just preference on that one too?
Like I said, totally fine with any of the cards I said.
Okay, yeah, because my thought process was that like Quandrix Cultivator, if I have the splash, it'd be more multicolor. It's fine. Body is like really limiting, and then also like while it's splashy, it's not like insanely more than an invocation or whatever. Maybe it's a 15-15 instead of a 10-10 or whatever. But like diminishing
it's usually a 26 or whatever. But yeah.
Well, those games often go late though, where you're cultivating. Or
sure, you draw.
Yeah. I've had games where like we hit the threshold point where the invocation ends up being bigger than the body. You kind of cross the threshold or whatever. But
sure.
Okay, so next back.
Yeah, I recently lost a game because my opponent's body was a 16 and I was able to make a 15 curve. This is that pick is reasonable.
Forgot
the
these subs didn't auto renew. Soy Jim.
Yeah, I think that's the best win rate in your colors. Fine. Yeah, I think it's symmetrist there. Little sad that I don't get to have it with the body. Instead I have 2 4-drops here.
Sure, yeah. I did take body in one of the Hunter Pence drafts last week, and I was able to copy it with Teach by Example. and then trample over the next turn with the trample thing. So I do like body, but yeah.
Sure.
All right, so Symmetrist, and happy with Symmetrist as a card overall, just in general. Like,
it's fine. It's like a little bit worse than Professor of Zoomancy, but Zoomancy is really good.
Okay.
Yep.
Cultivator.
Obviously, you take another Cultivator here.
So at this point, am I looking to go straight Quandrix here? Like, is splashing still an option? Like, now we have double Cultivator.
I mean, you're 3 picks in. Of course, splashing's an option.
Okay.
Like, you didn't take the body.
That's true, I guess.
This
sure.
is Leyline Invocation is a weaker card than Zoomancy and Drake. Zoomancy is the strongest by a lot. I get taking the Leyline because you have the 2 cultivators. I think I would be on the Drake if I'm worried about the number of 4s, which would be a reasonable concern. But I do understand like Leyline being like, well, I know that I want to take advantage of this ramp that I'm doing, but I also want to make sure that I live to do that. I think like it's interesting because like the cards that you have all push directly opposite the cards like raw power level, and then it's just about like how much you want to update for that. So you kind of went for like max synergy over max raw power level.
Yeah. I tend to do that in my drafting. I'm a very like very synergy-ish drafter. I'm trying to like build the deck, not just like.
For me, when I'm the Quandrix Cultivators like allow splashing if you find fixing like this Cultivate or like Elemental Sciences or something, Environmental Sciences, but they obviously push you toward really heavy Quandrix because they have 3 colored mana symbols.
Right.
And when I'm really heavy Quandrix, one of the things that I want to like be absolutely like one of the fail states for Quandrix is like getting run over by flyers.
Yeah.
And so like I would prioritize like I want to make sure that I don't just like lose the early game and take the Needlethorn Drake and figure I can find enough late game power in Quandrix. And like the Leyline Invocation feels more replaceable than like the Needlethorn Drake is kind of interchangeable with Scurried Colony, but I feel like you need exactly one of those two. And you want like 2 or 3 of them to not risk like just getting run over early and to like help turn on your fight spells and stuff like that. So I think that regardless of like the synergy here, I feel like as far as making sure that I've checked off my like fail state boxes, I want to take the Drake so that I just like know that my deck is at a baseline functionality level.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm just overvaluing Leyline just in general as like what you're saying, value over replacement. Like we can just learn for a Quandrix summoning or whatever, and just do that instead. So okay, but here pick wise, Cultivate.
Cultivate gives you a lot of like flexibility and plays well with the Leyline Invocations and sets you up really well for the deck that I'm about to be talking about in my podcast right after this. The Quandrix ramp deck.
Okay.
Also lets you do something like splash a random like explosive welcome or something. If you find just like some easy like expensive high impact splash card, maybe even take advantage of like a blot out this guy. Super easy Quandrix Apprentice here.
Right. Okay. I wasn't sure if Drake was like it's like Apprentice is very like much doing the same thing, whereas Drake's more defensive. So, but Apprentice is obviously great. So
yeah,
I was sure that was a card I was also overvaluing.
I think I just take the Witherbloom Campus. Oh, actually, no. I take Wormhole Serpent.
Okay. So is it that a card you value highly? Or not highly, but like, well, at least.
Wormhole Serpent is a card that I had been undervaluing that I think is like pretty busted in like exactly the deck that you have. Okay. I think like you have a lot of mana to use its ability with like having like Leyline Invocations and stuff. It just like kills people really easily.
Okay, so I think I'm starting to see what like my issue is with like my sort of big picture idea of like this is a big stuff format. You must do big things. Like take Invocation, take Masterpiece, have big things to do. Don't try and small ball stuff. And like I'm sort of seeing how that's incorrect. So I took Masterpiece over that again, presumably thinking that like I have mana.
You're just like, what's the most expensive spells that I can make
right, basically, yeah.
Like taking advantage of the stuff that I have. And like like the Worms numbers line up well, right? Like 5 toughness is obviously a flashpoint in this format, where it like doesn't die to heated debate, blocks all the elementals, lines up super well against Professor of Zoomancy. And then it like gives you this mana sink that like literally just kills your opponent like really easily with like Leyland Invocation or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it does the like how do I kill somebody while also blocking, and I feel like there's a little bit of like fancy play syndrome here where you're like, oh, I have a cultivate now, so I can splash, so I can take this elemental masterpiece. And it's like, yeah, you can, but we don't have to commit to doing that right now.
Right. Yeah. I think I'm also like, I feel like there have been cards like that Serpent in like past formats in Magic's history, but like often aren't great. They're just like, they look like, oh, it's unblockable, but they're too clunky.
Something or other that does it only for itself and not for other stuff. And that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah. There's been like various, I mean, like even way back, you know, like whatever, Onslaught or some weird set, or, you know, like where like, and those cards were always just bad. They're just like, they're a sealed.
It's different than the format where it's not that rare to make a 9/9 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But in this format, contextually, like it doesn't make a lot of sense why it is good, both sizing wise and how the games play out wise. So
right, and yes, like there are a lot of like it frequently comes up that a pest is blocking your 8/8.
Right.
If you can make that not happen, it's a big deal.
Right. So here we have a masterpiece or opt, and I imagine opt is correct.
Yeah, largely because the Quandrix Apprentice and the fact that you already have a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Easy field trip, super happy to see it. Easy cram session, really looking for fractal summoning now.
And we currently have 0 lessons, I believe.
That sounds right.
It's annoying because you can't have like your lesson board open. It's only your sideboard, whole sideboard. But
I think I take Frost Trickster here.
So now, what's your? I've struggled with like placing Frost Trickster in a deck. What's your opinion on Frost Trickster's place in a deck like this, or just in general?
So, I think Frost Trickster is like at its best in like, you know, the blue aggro decks, which are hard to come by because blue doesn't have good 2-drops that attack. But I think that like there exists like I had like a 5 Frost Trickster Snow Day Quandrix aggro deck, where like, you know, then it's just like, okay, this is just my plan. I'm just gonna like attack with flyers. If they play something that can block flyers, I'm gonna tap them, whatever. It's like it definitely like I do a lot of like deck reviews for people on my stream, and I find myself cutting Frost Trickster from a lot of like decks because they have Serpentine Curve in them, and I'm just like, yeah, let's cut all the like fillery type creatures, and this ends up being a fillery type creature. In the deck that you have right now, I don't feel like I'm trying to avoid creature count for any reason, and I do think that I'm pretty concerned with like not dying, and not very concerned, and like basically I just want a card that's gonna like reliably buy me some time to let my big creatures win. And I think that Frost Trickster is going to be a really good way to do that. And I think that it's going to be more reliable at like, so part of what I'm thinking about with Quandrix is like, there are like 2, 3, and 4 drops that are all like pretty different and go in different directions and all kind of comparable power level, where it's like, okay, is this a Frost Trickster deck, a Biomathematician deck, or a Quandrix Pledge Mage deck? Like which one and why? And your deck speaks to me as clearly the 3-drop that it wants. If it wants, well, first, this is a field trip deck. That's the 3-drop it wants. But if it's going to play a 3-mana creature, it wants Kelpie Guide. But if it's going to play another 3-mana creature, then it wants Trickster over the other common 3-mana creatures.
That's kind of what I've felt from the card. Where like it's a kind of card where like in a complete vacuum in the history of Limited, it looks awesome. Like Core Hookmaster is a great card, you know. So like this, getting it flying is just like, this is an awesome Limited card. This is great. But like, it doesn't seem to serve any purpose. You know, I've had like, I had a Prismari deck once that was like triple Prismari, Pledge Mage or whatever, and like it felt like it kind of was in that aggro space, so like it would fit there. But like those decks are so uncommon, and like it feels like in a deck like this, it's almost like a proxy. If you can't get Drake or you can't get the Skirled Colony, then all right, I guess I'll Trickster instead. That can block flyers. That can buy me some time.
Right, and that's basically what I'm looking. That's why I'm like, this is the one that you want here, like. Because I mean, so I know that I'm not into Pledge Mage because like I'm generally like, it's clear that on turn 4 I'm planning to play a Symmetrist or a Cultivator, and my Pledge Mage is going to keep being a 2/2.
Right.
And like I don't want Biomath because like again like the Quandrix is going to like the Cultivator is a good blocker. I'm not doing any of its like I'm not doing like an aggro fractal thing or whatever, and I'm not like really struggling to like gum up the ground. Like, if I'm playing like if instead of cultivators I'm playing Eureka Moments, then maybe I need biomath to make sure I don't get run over.
Yeah.
But since I'm impacting the board on 4, now I don't need to like go wide on 3. And so now what I want is just to make sure that I don't get hit by flyers as the thing that I'm doing. And so since you like took the like invocation over the Drake, like this is, our attempt to like plug that hole.
Is there a deck you want Biomancer in? I feel it's like I feel like it's like either you have 6 of them or you don't want it. Unless it's serving that like.
There's actually a slightly
purpose.
better version of what you just said. I did a deck tech for someone last night that had 3 emergent sequences and 3 biomancers, and
Okay.
then I was like, okay, play all of that stuff, and then play like this Aether Helix that can like bounce your opponent's token and get back a biomath to replay to pump all the existing
Right.
fractals, and now you can play like a couple of square ups, and like that was literally the first time I've ever seen a deck where I would recommend square up. But like hypothetically, a fractal aggro deck can't exist.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of like Cold Snap, where it's like you gotta get like 9 copies of your Ripple card or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Because that card also does seem like it's fine. It's 2/2. It's 1/1. It's like all right, but like.
Oh, this was a great gift. Oh, Resculpt there. There's like a whole thing on Resculpt, but so Resculpt I think is like a good way to not die to flyers. Like if your opponent has a combat professor and you have like a leyline invocation that's a 6/6 or whatever, like the combat professor is often going to kill you while they jump off the leyline.
Right.
But if you Resculpt it, you actually just don't really care about the 4/4. But you don't want to just like put Resculpt in your deck because it's not a good answer to anything. But if you have like a bunch of like biomathematicians and Professor of Zoomancies where you have like this easy buyout on like turn my 1/1 token into a 4/4, plus it's normal buyout mode of they used removal spell on literally anything. Now I'm just gonna make a 4/4 for 2 mana. You can like get to a point where like Resculpt is playable, and then also a good removal spell for like a large flyer you can't deal with, something like Anatomy, kill a thing in response to a Mage Duel, answer a Bookworm, kill like a random like rare thing that you can't deal with. So like I've Resculpt has like overperformed for me in Quandrix decks that make tokens. You'd never take it over Needlethorn Drake, just ever.
Right.
But just a note that like that's another reason to think about Master Biomancer.
I think that sort of goes a bit back to before, where like it seems like a good path to make your bad deck reasonable, like, where you're managing to use a late pick.
And right, there aren't a lot of removal spell options for Quandrix, but like sometimes every deck in this format wants to be able to kill like a really strong rare or whatever.
Sure.
And so it's like a way to like get a removal spell into your Quandrix deck that happen to not find any Mage Duels or Variant books.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so Drake, whatever. How are you on Teach by Example just in general?
I like Teach by Example in exactly Serpentine Curve deck.
Okay.
If I'm not planning to routinely cast 9/9 Serpentine Curves, I'm not interested.
Okay, at all? Like even if you're like even like a rampy like this, like a rampy Quandrix deck that be splashing red.
Nope. I need to be exactly making 9/9 Serpentine Curves. That's literally the only purpose I've ever found for it.
Okay.
I could maybe be sold if you have some certain rare I haven't thought about, but my go-to use case is exactly huge curves.
Okay. Because I played the one, like I said, in the 100 pence
right, where
I had body. I had 2 heated. I was splashing 2 heated debates. I had I think I had a curve. I think I had 1 curve. I think. But okay.
Yeah. I just assume we're just slamming tendrils here.
Allergy off camera again. Yeah, I think I haven't. I mean, tendril. How do you rate tendrils overall? Is like just in green cards or whatever, like in green uncommons, like.
So its numbers are better than Mage Duel, which took me a while to like wrap my head around, because like often like they're just a bunch of 2/2s or whatever. Well, I guess like a lot of your creatures are 2/2s, and like getting the 1 extra power to be able to kill a bigger thing is significant, and also you cast Mage Duel for 1, not uncommonly.
Right.
But like specifically the combo, the like kill anything pairing with Needlethorn Drake is big. Not losing your creature when you get blown out by a pump spell is somewhat nice.
Sure.
And like being able to like kill a Death Toucher comes up. 2 life isn't nothing. So I think it's like a little bit like I think I can see how the stats end up pointing to, and it makes sense ultimately that it's better than Mage Duel, which is to say, it's just ahead of the best like it's in the Professor Bear, like roughly top common, good but not super bomb on common space.
Okay. Okay. So how do you rate Moment as far as like?
Wait, sorry. What did you take over the time?
I took a Moment. Eureka.
Okay. Eureka Moment is like uh they're like 5-ish commons that are better than Moment, worse than Tendrils.
Okay. It's like I think I was viewing it as like an important piece to these decks. It's like just like again drawing cards.
You have 2 cultivators that are doing the same thing.
Okay.
Like that's you're not short on 4-mana ramp spells. You're not short on 4-drops. You're not short on ways to get to a bunch of mana. You're not really short on card advantage with like the Quandrix Apprentice and the Cultivate. You also don't really need card advantage. You need like what you need is to be able to get your lands into play. Like having extra lands on the battlefield is the card advantage that you need because you're not grinding, you're ramping. You're trying to play like a big thing that's going to win the game, like your Leyland Invocation and Masterpiece. You're not like trading 1-for-1. You're trying to go bigger than your opponent. And so like the card advantage generated by Quandrix Cultivator is perfect for you because it lets you do your big thing that's going to win the game by itself rather than trading. And so like because you're not like a bunch of 1-for-1s, you aren't like you don't even have 1-for-1s that you might want, like the fight spells and counter spells and stuff like that. There's no reason that you need to be like getting a 2-for-1 because you're not grinding. And so the Eureka Moment is like a less reliable ramp spell and less reliable value engine than like it's just below replacement among cards that are already in your deck.
Okay, so and then that flips a little bit. If you look back on the Sultai deck, which was playing always spot removal spells, Moment is a lot better in a deck like that, right? Is Moment actively desirable?
Moment is
there?
relatively better than it is in this deck. As for is it better than Devouring Tendrils, that's going to depend on do I have so much removal that I'm not going to be able to kill something for like if like Tendrils, 2 mana kill a thing, kill a big creature, gain 2 life is a very good card. Like if Tendrils reliably has that text, I think you basically always want it over Moment. If you're at the point where you have so much removal and so few creatures, the Tendrils might not have that text in a lot of situations. Then it's like, okay, I actually just want like the Moment here because I need to grind.
Okay.
So here again, easy Tendrils.
Is debate a question? I mean, I guess I'm still viewing the splash here on Masterpiece. Maybe like
I mean, debates like I'm not even like. Even if we assume that you are splashing the Masterpiece and we assume that you get more fixing than just the Cultivate to do it, I still don't know that debate is going to like kill creatures at a better rate. Like, I mean, like I think Tendrils is just a better removal spell than debate. It costs less mana. It's more likely that you can cast it early. It gains life.
Okay, I took Trickster. I'm not really sure why. Honestly, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, like Trickster is, we talked about Trickster before, how it's like solid in your deck and everything. But
yeah, again, I think I was like, I have been through a dozen drafts and cast Trickster like once. I think I want to take some of these and like basically try it out.
See, right? I mean, you have the problem like Quandrix has like one of the bigger problems with Quandrix is it doesn't have removal, or it doesn't have as much removal as you might want. So I don't feel like you can just go around passing your removal when there's so little of it available. So. Yeah, I think that like with Quandrix, I really want to be prioritizing creatures specifically so that I can take the fight spells so that I have removal, and then you need to like take the fight spells when they're there for that to be a thing.
Yep.
Here I'm on Scurried Colony and a little bit sad that I don't want the Cody.
So science is not a consideration?
Again, I'm not particularly attached to the Masterpiece, and I'm a little bit light on 2-drops from where I want to be, and I'm really, really good at using Scurried Colony. Like, you're going to be turning this thing into a 4/4 on, like, turn 6 pretty often. So I think I like the colony. I could understand sciences if you like are pretty interested in this masterpiece and want to give yourself like, there's definitely like you have like the cultivate and the Quandrix Apprentice. You have like at least the cram session plus field trip to like get access to it. So there's something to be said for just giving yourself the optionality by taking the sciences. I wouldn't fault someone for taking sciences. I think I'd take colony, but totally fine with either one of those cards, I guess.
How high are you in sciences if you just like somehow? I mean, I don't want to say like no, you're in two colors, but like your deck is looking like it's going to be very much two colors.
If I'm like three, like I've seen like pick 4, pick 6 type sciences. If we're talking about like it's end to pack 3, I'm solidly a 2-color deck. How much do I value sciences just to make sure I don't miss my land drops? When I do have like say like 3 2-mana learn spells, so I'll frequently have access to it. It's like I value it, but like here, because so many of your cards give you extra lands and you're not likely to play a low land count, I think that you would have to be like you're going to be really hard up to be in a spot where like you actually want to keep a hand where your plan is to learn for sciences. Like it's so unlikely that your deck functions in a game where that's what you're doing.
Sure.
That I think that the like make sure I don't get mana screwed insurance policy that science is offering is very low value to you, especially considering how high value like elemental and fractal summoning are for this deck.
Okay. I believe I take colony here, so maybe not. Maybe not. All right, sure. I think I was valuing the red splash, I guess.
So here, given that you took science, I think I'm slamming Rutha over Divide by Zero. But I think like if you take the colony, then I think it's between Divide by Zero and elemental summoning. With the science, I think it's Rutha. But
so I took elemental
summoning.
So I guess like that is kind of weird how I took the fixer and then didn't take the good splash card.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Here, given where you are, I think it's heated debate. If you hadn't taken the science, then it's like tricky where it's like, do I want heated debate or Amplimancer?
I mean, I assume you're not happy playing Amplimancer in your deck, right? Like it's like pretty mopey.
Yeah, I mean, like basically you play it if you need a creature to make sure that your mage tools are on.
Okay.
Or potentially Mentor's Guidance.
This is a reasonable masterpiece, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Snow Day here.
I think I take Annihilation here. What's your like? The Snow Day obviously feels like a finisher, and like again, a more aggressive deck doesn't really exist. Like, what's your view of that card in this deck? Is this a finisher? Is this like a fog by time?
It's really good. Like you have ramp such that you're going to be able to cast it like before an aggro deck has beaten you, and like it just like buys a lot of time and draws cards. And like it's pretty easy for you to like not care at all about the card you're discarding with like the Quandrix Apprentice and stuff. And I just think it's a good card.
Okay, I think my thought process was that my top end is already pretty like set in stone, and then I wanted like the rando out to whatever.
I'm happy with another 6 another 6 in there. You have like 3 cards at 4 that ramp you to 6 in addition to the Cultivate and Field Trip. And like maybe another set. Like I don't care much about this masterpiece, but I'd be happy with another 6. Here I'm taking the Witherbloom Pledge Mage. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I don't like the Curate here because I don't think it does anything for you. I think I might have taken like it's hard to splash Creative Outburst, but really good.
Yeah, I think that I'm also
as it happens with the second outburst. I'm like, all right, now I want to work for this.
Yeah.
I think
I overvalue the kind of wheel spinny cards where they're obviously good.
I mean, I love Curate, just not in this deck.
Love Curate, they're good in their spots. If you're playing Curve, if you're playing like Pledge Mage or whatever, Magecraft triggers, etc. But like,
right, you're not trying to spin wheels in this deck. You're trying to do like you have a plan. You're trying to like live ramp like blocker ramp big thing.
So it is opt like obviously I think you're gonna play it
fine because it's 1 mana and you have like Quandrix Apprentice and stuff. Okay. But like it's not. It's also not a priority.
So now,
Like I,
I'm sorry. Finish.
no, you're good.
Okay.
So I guess with this pack, the question is like, is it realistic to try to splash? Like, is it easier to splash double red on 7 or single red on 3? Is I guess like the question you have to ask with this pick.
I mean, I think kicking Urza's Rage in this format doesn't seem like an insane thing to happen, and then the failsafe of just being like a worse heated debate is also like reasonable too.
I agree that kicking it isn't an insane thing to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Also, 12 is a really big number.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I took the Rage here, and I did kick it like 2 or 3 times in a draft, which I'm obviously a little biased, and it is obviously double red too, but like so it's.
Right.
But I mean, so is Outburst too. So like, if you're
Yeah.
gonna play Outburst, like you could go bigger in
Right.
theory, and then the fail state of Urza's Rage is much better than Outburst, where like a treasure is
Right.
like, I guess playing Cultivator on 3 is fine, but you know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think Creative Outburst has like better stats than Urza's Rage. I think Urza's Rage has like really weirdly bad stats. Um, like there are a bunch of 4s that it doesn't like. I think it's clearly worse than Heated Debate. I think like being able to like go face is much worse. Like being able to go face plus kicker is much worse than killing like all of the various 4s, specifically like elemental tokens, and getting around ward. But Heated Debate is like a card that you'd be really happy to pick here.
Right.
I do think that like working for second red is pretty annoying, but also like not outside of the realm of possibility. Also, you already have 2 7s. I don't know if you want another. I basically what I want to have as the situation at this point in the draft is if we have like the Needlethorn Drake over one of the elemental masterpieces, and then we have like Outbursts as our top end instead of the masterpieces, and a little more of that early game.
Sure. So yeah, kind of.
That's where I'd want to be. Given where we are, I think it's fine to take the Rage.
So what we were saying before about the value of replacing your random whatever 5, 6, 7 mana spell, like you'll find something to do with your mana.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I like Pop Quiz is a little bit in the wheel spinning types. Basically, I'm only going to play this Pop Quiz if I end up getting Fractal Summoning.
Okay. So I think it's too. Oh, yeah, okay, never mind. Okay, and Dustspeaker is a card that's like only lore hold, basically, or
yeah, basically. I mean, so the reason I hope that you're saying lore hold is because it's good with combat tricks.
Yeah, I meant also like just
like
the lore hold seems to lack that like bigger top end stuff, but there's like your Prismari decks have like elemental summonings and like other things to do on 5.
Sure. Right. So you're saying basically like if you're lore hold and you want like a big thing, but you can't go up to 7 mana to get your big thing. So this is your top end and it's high impact. Like the other issue with this card is like 3/4 gets bricked by 4/4s really easily.
Yeah.
And so like the spot where this is good is you attack, they have to block because it's a Dustspeaker, and then you use your like I don't know, literally any trick, and you've like done something reasonably good. But like in Prismari, like I would slam Pillar Drop Warden over Dustspeaker.
Okay. All right, so Pop Quiz, like not thrilled to play it, but Pop Quiz.
Oh, I mean, I love Pop Quiz in my decks, but the same situation with Curate where we're not trying to be wheel spinny here.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, I think I've been universally just playing cards like Pop Quiz and Curate just like in every deck and not really kind of considering the ramifications of like what its goal in the deck is. I'm just sort of like, oh, it's a Magecraft format, I'll just play this Curate, kind of thing, and not really like thinking it through more than that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so whatever. Random picks. All right. A lot of Outbursts.
Pack for you. Yeah, this pack's horrible for you. Like, I feel like the card that's giving me the most meaningful insurance out of this pack is the Cogwork Archivist, but I also don't think that it would make sense to take with this pick because I think it's coming back. You can, I mean, I guess you take the Creative Outburst because there's nothing else. I already talked about how I don't think you need the Master Biomancer or the Biomathematician because you have the 4s. So I think Cogwork Archivist is the best card for you, and you should take Outburst and then plan to wield the Archivist.
I don't recall at all what I do here. Honestly. Sure.
What did you take?
That's the Cogwork. No faith in the wheel. I guess.
Having first picked a Cogwork Archivist is a real accomplishment. I bet a lot of people have not first picked Cogwork Archivist.
Achievement unlocked.
Here, I think you take the field trip. I would forgive taking Containment Breach, but this is... I think I would maybe just take Cram Session.
Yeah, I mean, Cram Session seems a lot better than Moment in this deck. Like, thinking about what we've been talking about, where, like, it's a 2-drop, it gains life, it buys time. It's like, it's filling that spot in the curve. It's sort of buying, it's like doing a lot of things that kind of wants to do.
Not on force. Because, like, you have, first of all, you have, like, Cultivate and 2 field trips that just ramp you straight past 4. And then if you happen to be trying to play a 4-drop, you already have 4 of them.
Right.
So, like, yeah, I think it's just Cram Session.
What's your opinion on Vortex Runner?
I think so. We talked about like how there are all those different 3s, and I forgot to mention Vortex Runner. I think in general it's like probably the weakest of them, but like in exactly this deck where you're like, look, I get to 8 mana quickly. I think it's like totally solid. I think I think it's better in exactly this deck than Pledge Mage and Biomancer. I think it's still worse than Frost Trickster and Field Trip.
Yep.
So replacement level 3. This is a super easy emergent sequence.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm paused. That's why I haven't taken it. I'm still on pause.
I would really like a campus. That wasn't the spot for it, but I would really hope to get one.
Yeah. So you can see in deck building wise, I've pulled the red cards out, assuming that I'm straight Quandrix. And
yeah,
are there any decks you're playing Waterfall earliest than him?
The 5 Frost Trickster deck.
Okay, sure. The mythical aggressive flyer deck.
Yeah, I would take Ratio over Aerialist. I actually like Ratio in decks where it's good. This isn't one, but it could become one fairly easily if you end up with like a couple. Like basically, I like Golden Ratio if you have cards that give you 2 different size bodies, and I also like it particularly with the 0/4 wall.
That's cool. Okay, yeah,
that's awesome. This is probably Frost Trickster over Subtraction.
Yeah. I guess we only have 1 Drake so far. Like,
yeah, I mean it's like we're getting to the point where we have a few too many 3s, but also the Tricksters play well together, and like. You're not great at like getting into combat for the subtractions. You take the Frost Trickster, so you can't be that surprised by the suggestion.
Sure, yeah. I'm just like trying to gauge some of the more like obtuse learn cards, like Cram Session, Subtraction, or like, and they look really bad at first glance, then they're actually pretty good, and then like I'm trying to figure out where in that good range they are.
How good does that mean they are?
What's up?
Yeah, and then you have to figure out like how good that means they are. Like,
right, exactly. We're like okay. I obviously undervaluated learn at the beginning. Now I'm taking all the learn cards, but where they fall in,
Well, I mean, part of the issue with this deck, like I want learn to be good in this deck, but we don't have good lessons, and we're kind of late to get them, right? Like you don't have the fractal summonings that I want to be the lessons that we're getting in this deck. So I'm kind of just off it. Okay. Like you have the environmental sciences that's going to let you splash your red and stuff, so you do want some learn, but you don't need to like go out of your way to get a bunch of it here.
Okay, so Quiz Runner clearly at a have many playables for this deck.
Oh yeah.
And the question, of course, is going to be how to cull that down. Now, as you see, I'm cutting the red cards.
Yeah, cutting the red.
I think I played the first game as a straight Quandrix deck, and
then put the red back in.
Didn't like it at all, and then ended up going into the splashing the rage, the double 4 damage spell.
Yeah, you might have been able to be straight Quandrix if you had been drafting the removal spells. Like if you had taken those 2 tendrils and stuff.
Very fair.
But since you don't have those, you need to play the like heated debates to be able to answer stuff.
Yeah, and unfortunately we got 0 campuses, obviously, which sucks. We have sciences. We do have sequence, but like getting your splash card with sequence is obviously pretty risky. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean The build I'm going to build right here is not the build that I played for most of the entire
Sure.
draft. So we can skip ahead. Perfect. All right, cool. All right, so this is our last draft to review. We're doing good on time for you?
Yeah, I would say I have another 40 minutes. I can maybe stretch it a little bit more than that, but I do still need to finish some prep for my podcast.
Okay.
And then start recording at 8. So,
Okay, so
I'd like to be done 50 minutes. I'd say 50 minutes from now is like a pretty hard deadline.
okay, so let's try and get through this review in like 15-ish minutes, and then we can fire off a draft.
Sure.
Cool. All right, there's Body again.
Is it the pick here?
So basically, it's Body or Storm, I would assume.
This pack is much weaker than the last time we saw Body. So sure, we start with Body.
I think chat was also egging me on because they were mad about last time.
Okay, so this is interesting because like science is just like interesting with Body, where it's like, well, Body means that I don't want to splash, where like a lot of the value of science is letting me splash, but it also lets me like, you know, resolve this triple thing,
Right?
or like the double triple situation where like the mana can be pretty hard even in a 2-color deck sometimes. And like obviously there's not a ton of value to the Eureka moment, plus a lot of flexibility. Yeah, I would take sciences because I'm also just like not 100% married to the Body here.
Okay, and I mean like any other pick would be very off Body anyway, right? Be like Statement, Eliminate.
Well, I mean, it would be Eureka moment. Would be the like. I'm sure that what I want to do is just cast a Body on turn 5.
Okay, so are you more into Eureka here because we don't have the cultivators and the 4-drops yet?
Right. Well, I mean, it's just like I think that if I'm just looking at what card in this pack plays best with Body of Research, I'm like, well, Body says splashing isn't good, therefore Elemental Sciences is less valuable. So I'm going to take the Eureka moment that lets me cast the Body earlier.
Okay.
I don't think that that's like the right way to draft right here because it's pick 2 and we're not married to the Body. We might end up in a completely different color combination. We might end up like, you know, with a bunch of learn and we can splash like one random mountain or swamp or whatever and play Body with a card of a different color. We also just like get to reliably hit our mana for Body, whatever. Like I think that Sciences is pretty clearly the right pick, especially since like the moment could table or whatever.
Yep,
but,
I agree.
I'm pretty sure I'm slamming Cody.
I do. Yeah, just a little
Yeah.
allergy breaking in. Man, this is really annoying for viewers. Jeez. I get these allergies fixed. Yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, is there a card you would consider taking over Cody here? Like, I can't really even.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide if Cody like. So if I have like, you know, random other card instead of Cody, I'm slamming Test of Talents. I think even with Cody, I still take Test, but I'm fine with Opt instead because of Cody.
So do you value Test higher than Negate?
No, I think that they're virtually identical, but acknowledge that like so I was higher on Negate than Test. Then I lost to a Poet's Quill while I had the mana up while I had Test in my hand. And it's like, I know Negate has better stats, but it feels like the information from Test is really valuable. And they counter almost all the same cards. But it is like some really nutty bombs that are the specific difference. But like, I think of Test very comparably to Negate still.
I mean, I feel like I've had decks where like, you know, I had, you know, 2 or 3 invocations and like not many ways to win, or like two or three curves, not many ways to win, where like, if they had tested my curves or tested my invocations, I was I'm not sure I'm going to win anymore. Like, you know, so is that like a valuable part of a spell, do you think? Or
yeah, I mean, it's not. I think that it's definitely not nothing. There are some decks where it's great. I think that in my experience, it's very rare to play against those decks, even if it would generally crush me. It doesn't crush my opponents quite as badly as it would crush me. I think that it's, you know, meaningful. I think the information from looking at their hand is slightly more valuable than it.
Okay.
But like both of them, like the stats say that those two things combined are not as good as the flexibility of Negate, even though it seems like the flexibility of Negate's really small.
Yep. pretty easy summoning there, I assume.
Yeah, I think so.
I assume same with Curve.
This is fun. This is a very different deck than the previous Quandrix deck.
Yes.
I think I take Snarl here.
Take the Snarl.
Yeah. You have body research. It wants fixing because it's so demanding in the mana. And like I don't really care about these other cards. Like Anatomy, you know, it's a less like it's between Snarl and Anatomy. I'm just like not that into Anatomy in this kind of deck. Like your creatures are huge anyway.
Yeah, I think I definitely discussed the Snarl, so I was gonna be mousing over it and stuff. I'm not sure like what my exact reasoning for taking the Anatomy there was, but
Lorehold Campus there is
yeah,
interesting.
let's back up a second here.
I mean, there's nothing for you in the pack. I'm surprised that you took Lorehold Campus over the Snarl just because the Snarl's gems.
I think I was just like prepping to like be if my escape route from body is just like this multicolor deck.
If you just shift into multicolor Cody control nonsense.
Right. That was my idea. Was like, all right, I don't want any of these cards, but the card that pivots best for
I think
body.
if you're trying to win the draft, Lorehold Campus is probably slightly the pick very slightly ahead of the resculpt. Curate versus Subtraction is really close. I take Subtraction, I think, because of the thing that I talked about with Cody, where you want to bounce between lessons and learn, and also the fact that you have a sciences, so you can use Subtraction as like a really reliable fixed spell, particularly if you move away from body. But I do think that the two of them are pretty close.
Okay, yeah, I think I was just thinking Curve. I think.
Yeah.
Or take Sciences. Never mind.
Oh.
I mean, Subtraction. Yeah.
This is horrible. I take Pillar Drop. No.
Yeah,
Definitely Pillar Drop over Dust Speaker.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Easy Letter. Resculpt.
So definitely interesting start.
My chat is pointing out a thing that I agree with and like was on the fence about saying, which is that Spell Satchel is also good in this kind of deck. I think that Spell Satchel was clearly worse than Subtraction and Curate there, but I did almost say honorable mention Spell Satchel as a card that would be hypothetically good here if there weren't better cards.
Yeah, I think I never played that card before. I think spoiler. I think I actually end up with that card. At least I can play it for the first time if I remember correctly. So
okay. I think I'm on Snow Day here over Field Trip and Campus, but I would be fine with the Field Trip. I think it's Snow Day, Field Trip, Campus.
I think this was the point where I was like, I'm jumping ship on body. Like,
okay.
I don't think that the green or blue is there. I'm not sure why I took Thrill, but
yeah, that's just like that feels like a spite pick on the body. Like I'm just gonna take a worst card to send a message that I don't want to play you.
Yeah, I mean, like, if we're on body, it's Field Trip. You're saying, or Snow Day?
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless of whether you're on body, like I think whether I'm playing body or not, my pick order of this pack is Field Trip, then Snow Day, then Campus.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. I think that my reasoning is reasonable. My execution, I don't understand what I was thinking exactly, but
here, I think it's probably Cram Session.
I mean, we do have sciences, so like the Cram Session is, you know, like the fun of 5-color, 4-color, whatever mishmash fixery we're looking for. Is there another like? I mean, like Professor's obviously good, but awkward.
There's not another card.
No.
I mean, it's basically like, you know, if it weren't for Cody, we could be talking about Professor over Cram Session, but like we're in a spot where I'd be really happy to just take a Cram Session. Impulsive Research very easily.
Yeah, research.
And once, if you're sure that you want to abandon the body, then I'm happy about tabling the Reconstruct. Here I'm taking Abundant Harvest.
I mean, like, so if we're abandoning body, are we green?
Well, I have a Cram Session, and I am not hard committed. Like, I goof grabbed a Thrill possibility somehow, but that doesn't mean I'm like married to getting rid of body.
Sure.
And I think that like Abundant Harvest is just like it's the same thing as Opt, where it just like means that your like ones can or your twos can cascade into something with Cody, and it's like cascading into a pretty good card. Um, if you're like thinking specifically that you're not green, then I would take Intro to Annihilation.
You take what? I'm sorry.
Intro to Annihilation.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So I think at this point I was like, I think I was kind of off body, and therefore I felt like I was off, like green, just in general.
Sure.
But
So are you on Masterpiece here?
yeah, I think
Yeah. So this is the issue. Is like I don't like Masterpiece in Cody decks because I feel like I'm just going to win by virtue of the fact that I've played a game where I hit turn 7, and I don't need to like play a thing that's making some 4/4s. And like I like Intro to Annihilation with Cody in case I end up with like good permanents where like I had a game once where I just like Cody'd it to cast every lesson and learn card in my deck and sideboard, and then with the last one I got Annihilation and annihilated my Cody, and then had built up some permanents in my hand and cast those.
that's pretty funny.
And like I like to have that out, in addition to just like the normal uses for Intro to Annihilation, and also just like being low on 7 mana finisher in a deck that I feel like has a good late game.
What is your opinion of Masterpiece, like just in general, like as a card?
I think that it is very good in like the deck that I draft, that I like most under draft relative to other people, which is the like Prismari theme deck, like where you actually play like Spectacle Mage or whatever. I like it if you're the sort of person who like ever drafts a Maelstrom Muse, then I think that like Masterpiece goes well with it.
Okay.
I don't touch those cards, but I do respect their pairing together.
So you're not interested in Masterpiece as a splashing Quandrix or in like the multicolor kind of just grindy decks?
I find it to be like an acceptable card in the multicolor grindy decks if I failed to find Serpentine Curves and Fractal Summon. Like if I'm at the spot where it's like, yeah, I literally don't know how I'm gonna win. So,
Sure. Okay.
but it's not my like go-to. I feel like I get a lot more bang for my buck on a Serpentine Curve.
Okay. I mean, I'm good to see. I'm glad to see that like I'm sort of discovering like these trends that I'm kind of like where I have these ideas in my head for whatever reason, and like I'm kind of seeing the trend through multiple drafts, even in different kinds of decks. So it's good that I'm examining that.
Yeah. So and to be clear, I know that like I am under other good drafters on Masterpiece.
Okay.
So like there are legitimate ways to draft. Like I assume that like Seth Manfield and Ben Stark are probably not crazy to like Elemental Masterpiece.
Okay.
I don't think that it's like good in exactly the way that I draft, but I certainly believe that like if you trust Wizards about the cards that they printed in Prismari and you want to put them in your deck, Elemental Masterpiece plays well with them.
Okay. All right. Cool. Moving on.
Yep.
Thoughts on this back?
I think I would take Archway Commons.
Okay.
But it would be fine to take Spirit Summoning or Explosive Welcome, or maybe find a way to take Hunt for Specimens. So like once you're off body and you have Cram Session, then I'm like, well, am I actually taking Hunt for Specimens to get access to good black removal spells? Like I've been known to pivot, like I've been known to take Hunt for Specimens, pick 2 Pack 5 as my first black card to open myself up to using black removal spells.
I think that was my feeling was when I I took that Cram Session. I think in my mind it was a black card, not a green card.
Okay, yeah, and I mean that is in my range. I have done exactly that. Like the Hunt is certainly on the table here, and it looks like you actually do that. Okay, that's and now you get to take a Lash, rewarded for it. I'm totally comfortable with that direction.
I'm glad there's no card here to take it's not Lash because I'm clear. What?
Bro.
All right, I gotta go. I gotta get the DeLorean out. I'm gonna have to talk with myself because I can't fathom why I would take that card. So, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Timing there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
So here I think
moving along, I guess.
Between planning and campus, you're off greens. You take planning. That's fine.
Yeah.
Thrilling Discovery. Are we gonna somehow put that in the deck? Quandrix Pledge Mage. Sure. Campus. Campus? Well, I guess you're unlikely to play black and green, but
it's
whatever.
just like all the other cards are terrible, right? Like,
I mean,
so.
I don't know. I respect first day.
First day is the
First day of class, learn card.
okay, the learn pump haste card.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you want that card in? Like for what?
Well, so it's a 2-mana way to find sciences that doesn't require your opponent to put a creature onto the battlefield, which is obviously a lot worse than Cram Session, but like, functionally does a thing.
So you're playing it as a blank 2-mana learn card for the most part.
Well, I'm playing it with a fail state of blank 2-mana learn, but it's also like actively good with pest summoning.
Okay, that's cool.
It's like the 5-mana make 2/2/2s.
That's sweet.
Yeah, is like I want that to be part of the package. Like I want to like if I'm playing first day, I want access to that. And then the other thing that it can do is kill your opponent out of nowhere with a curve, especially if you get the 8-mana Mondo combo of first day, teach, curve, and then you just 20 them.
Sure, that does sound very cool. Yeah, it's a pretty Moby pack.
Yeah. I'd probably take the Thrilling Discovery, but
yeah, quite the collection of cards so far. I think my thought process though for the most part has been jump ship on body, some sort of multicolor, removal-y, control-y deck around Cody.
yeah, I still think you like worked too hard to abandon body. Like it still feels like you just had to send a message to the body rather than just kind of like
Sure.
naturally maybe pivoting out. What's the
Sure.
card path? You assume that you know that you can't pass blot out this guy.
Yeah,
and
Blot feels like the actual
apparently-
perfect card for us.
Apparently the whole like DeLorean thing, maybe Jim Davis is way ahead of you and knew that blot out was coming, and that's why you have to solve the equation over Lash.
It's funny because I recalled having Blot and Solve in my deck in the draft itself. And I was like, I must table that Solve, I guess. And I took it. I was like, oh my god, I guess I just took it. So, but yeah, I mean, Blot feels like the perfect card to open for this deck, right? Because we were kind of like,
You're playing a deck that could hypothetically cast it, so it's the perfect card to open. Yeah,
sure, I guess, sure. But like, as far as like needing a way to win the game, kind of like needing some sort of like plan or thing to work towards besides Cody,
Sure.
and like Blot fills that role really well. Well, I have had a lot of spots with Blot where I've had Blot I think twice now, and where I just can't cast it or I die. Where I'm in a spot where I'm just behind enough where like
Sure.
one turn won't save me. So I think it's more of the failing of the deck that I'm drafting, not Blot of Sky, obviously though. So
Mm-hmm. Well, Harmonize. Oh, I guess you just take Lash here.
please take the Lash, Jim. For once in your life, Jim, please take a Lash. Certainly one of the cards I'm obviously clearly underrating.
Yeah. Do you like Shock?
I mean, it has its place. It's good. There's certainly times where it's like it's not super exciting. I don't recall last format that Shock proper was in, but
Well, I mean, Shock is in this format. That's what I'm asking about.
sure, technically. All right, so I took the Lash. We did it. Are we intro school here?
Yeah, you don't already have one, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Do you have a campus yet?
A Silverquill campus?
No, just literally any campus.
Yeah, we have a few. We have the Lorehold one I took very, very early. We have a Prismari one, and we might have one more, I think.
Okay, then I think it's fine to take Graham here.
Okay.
But if you're low on lessons, you maybe are supposed to take the pest summoning. I don't remember exactly where you're at on lessons.
That's fair, yeah.
Here, I'm pretty sure you take Fractal Summon. You should take Fractal Summoning here. I think anything but Fractal Summoning would be pretty bad.
Yeah, I agree strongly with that. Oh man, the videotape never lies, At least we're lashing though, right? A little bit of growth here.
Yeah.
So now the black's kind of flux. Now we have 2 lash, we have the juke. So would you play Mage Hunter's Onslaught in this deck at all? or like
Black's pretty scary with your other mana requirements.
sure.
Maybe, but I would hope not to.
Okay. At this point, it looks like we're like blue-black,
I think you have.
splashing
Yeah.
white for blot,
And you're
and
presumably splashing the red still.
for summoning, correct? Yeah. I mean, we also just have 2 on-color red campuses, so splashing red's super easy.
Right. I think I would have taken the Eureka moment. Okay, and here's where you get your spell satchel.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we ended up with a Cody deck with Blot. The details might not have been necessarily ideal, but we
Yep.
have Blot and Cody.
I think this was a draft where I felt like this is kind of the first time I've had a deck like this, really, and I was kind of like, I feel like I'm in the I have the right idea execution wise. We're like off in a number of places. Let me fast forward ahead to the actual. The deck build was pretty long, I believe. So yeah, something like this is what it ended up being. I'm not sure why same idea with the curates where I'm just like, oh, revitalize, cheap spell, just play it. Oh, thrill. I mean, I think thrill's probably okay in this deck. It's just so easy to cast, and we're prone to flooding because we're playing. I think we played 18 lands.
Okay.
Thoughts on thrill in this deck?
I mean, I like Thrill as a card. I don't know that I like it as like my only red splash aside from Elemental Masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like I agree that you can cast it, but you can't really like cast it early to make sure your draws function very reliably. The Revitalize is also a pretty hard splash.
Yeah.
I also don't really like the Quandrix Pledge Mage.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the cards that I don't know if it's easy to see the cards you're not playing in this build.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me see if we can go up to. So it looks. I mean, there really isn't much.
Yeah, I agree that there isn't much.
So, like, I think that, I'm in the ballpark here, as far as, like, the general...
As far as building with the cards that you have.
Yeah.
There are obviously, a lot of picks that we have already gone over where there was, some disagreement. And I think that I would be in a position where I wouldn't have just, like... I would have transitioned more gradually in a way that would have involved continuing to play some green cards.
Mhm.
And I think that this is a deck that could like benefit from like some Eureka moments that you could have had early, pretty easily and stuff.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, like, what is like I don't say ideal version of this deck look like, but like what makes this deck from whatever the hell it is here to like a good version of a deck?
I mean, so if the question is basically just like what boxes am I looking to check in a Cody deck? I want to have like ideally like 3 elemental / fractal summonings.
Mhm.
Ideally also with a pest summoning. I want like 2 Lash of Malice, 1 with like, any number, like obviously the more the better, but a good cheap uncommon black removal spell like Flunk or Eliminate goes a long way.
Mhm.
And then I want like some hard removal, like, at least 3 of like Expel, Rise of Extus, Bury Books, like some kind of answer to a big thing, ideally one that doesn't cost black. And then I
And
want
rhyme with Mage
like,
Hunter's Bonslaught.
and then I want like a little bit of like dedicated card advantage, but not very much. Like, a reconstruct. If I don't have that, then like, some like pop quiz or I mean compulsive research is doing it here. Practical research can do it. I want, like just a, dabbling of that. I'm mostly planning to get card advantage just from like lesson learned Cody type stuff. And then like a good amount of like defensive-ish lessons like Hunt and Cram Session and Arcane Subtraction and potentially Study Break if I'm heavy white. And then, it's nice if you can have like 2 curves, not required, more is even better, fewer is fine. If I'm lower on curves, I want to make sure that I have the like big lessons. If I'm higher on curves, the big lessons aren't as important. Um, and yeah, I mean that's the ballpark.
Is this deck playable without Cody? Like, is a deck like this?
Oh, and then obviously I also want, just like a random, like the rest of the deck is just a pile of like curates and thrilling discoveries and stuff.
Okay.
Is the deck playable without Cody? Yes.
Okay, so like this isn't necessarily a Cody deck. This is just like a kind of like a Dimir control deck that has Cody and can do those things.
Yeah,
as well.
I'm basically just giving you the outline for the Dimir control deck,
Okay.
and then also that deck happens to use Cody perfectly.
Okay. All right, cool. So, any like big general final thoughts watching these 5 drafts now? And like,
I think you've basically come up to a lot of, like we've been talking through the picks, and I think you've done a pretty good job of like, summarizing it and figuring out where your like big thought processes are like a little bit different. I think there's, some amount of like tunnel vision, both in terms of like not pivoting and pivoting, where I think that you like went too hard on like I need to like actively kick this body research out of bed versus like having like a gradual break.
Okay.
And then I mean, like you said, a little bit more, preparing to play small ball.
Okay. Right. What? I lost you. Right there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which
I was saying just, a little bit more focus on preparing to play like the small game part of the format. Prioritizing Lash, prioritizing like early blockers, especially ones that can block flyers. Just like, acknowledging that like you need to respect Silver Quill aggro even if you can't figure out how to win with it.
Sure. Okay, that's very fair.
It's very easy to figure out how to lose to it. I don't know if you've explored that space, but I have.
Yeah, I've been there a number of times. All right, cool. All right, so let's wrap this up and let's hop into a draft. We're good on time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I want 8:30 your time to be like a hard deadline for me. So like, I might, if we're toward the end of a draft and you basically have a direction, I might bail on you.
That's totally fine.
So you hop into a draft, and I'm gonna refill my water real quick, and I'll be right back.
Cool. So, YouTube folks, that's this episode of Bronze and Mythic. And big thanks to Sam Black. Check out Sam on all of his stuff. Sam does coaching. You can hire him just like you saw with this. You can check out his YouTube, check out his Twitch. Sam's great. Go check him out. And yeah, we're going to draft on stream. So, YouTube folks, thank you.